All right, Alan. Welcome everyone to a belated Google Plus week. Good to have you with us. Let's introduce our panel here. We have the lovely Pam Adger in Menifee, California. Welcome, Pam. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Hi, Dan. I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. You have new enhanced lighting tonight, I see.
Yeah, I haven't adjusted it yet. I'll fix it.
I thought perhaps a volcano had erupted in Menifee and you could break the news on our program. Joining us from Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters tournament, is Mr. Michael Banks. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. What's up?
So you've got a roll of paper towels in case something crazy happens. You're ready.
No, it's for my Chinese food. You know, I gotta eat. You gotta have, food for the Google Plus week.
It's got to be. It's speaking of food.
Because that's the most important component of this show is discussing dinner.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Cadeas,
for Dan, I don't know why he does that.
now I know fruit is Monday night. What do you eat on Friday night?
Chinese.
You have Chinese and a paper towel, just in case. All hell
Yeah.
breaks loose. Oh, it's fruit. Okay.
No, it was Chinese.
Thus the complete lack of body fat on Mr. Kalut. Also, we have Harold Carey joining us. Welcome, Harold. How are you?
Welcome.
You've had
Been
a
working
wonderful.
in my garden all day, planting potatoes and corn.
Do you have any interesting stories you'd like to share with us? Oh, wait, you can't. Apparently, all your stories got deleted.
Yes, they disappeared. 32.
How much time did you spend? Any time editing them, or you just
Yeah, I spent about an hour editing one.
Okay? Hopefully, it's a temporary glitch, and not the next Google Reader. Just throwing that out there. Joining us from Thurmont, Maryland, Mr. Craig Ship from CraigShip.com. Craig, I heard
Hello.
a rumor that the Area Guys Network was purchased by Google, or no, actually, I heard that Steve Ballmer from Microsoft had just purchased Area Guides for $2 billion. Is that true?
The original rumor was that Area Guides was purchasing Google, and I have to say that was not true. I can't comment on any of the other rumors.
I mean, Apple's buying up stuff. I mean, they may as well pick up, area guys as well. I mean, you'd
Now
love to be bought by Apple.
that would be a wise purchase, absolutely.
I know that Area Guides is hiring. I think there's what's the website of some? Oh, I know it's areaguides.wordpress.com. If someone was looking to make six figures and they were on the East Coast, anywhere from Baltimore, Maryland, down to Sarasota, Florida, they
Absolutely.
could go to areaguides.wordpress.com unless you make seven figures and you're not interested in a six-figure job.
That's right.
So there are those folks. So anyway, Alan Furstenberg joins us from New York. Welcome, Alan.
Hey, Dan.
So Alan, in a bid to boost our ratings, apparently our first topic is about the Argentine model who is suing Google over her images of her naked appearing on porn sites because she is upset now because she no longer wants to appear on porn sites naked. Although at some point she did in fact appear naked, since there are images of her naked that are now on porn sites. That's the short intro.
How many times can you repeat the words naked and porn sites during this show, Dan?
I could use
Is
visual
somebody
aids.
keeping a tally?
I could use visual aids. This is definitely not a show for radio. This is definitely a television show. This topic, television topic. So here's the deal. On the surface, it would seem to me that I could understand if I had done stupid stuff in the past, like the old Dan's Thongs and Tattoo Hour on UHF in the 80s, which I now regret. But
Dan?
the other side of the coin is, why did you do that in the first place? Pam, what are your thoughts?
It seems that the reason she's suing Google is because these porn sites link to pictures that are not of her naked. They're of her clothed. And once people click on them, they actually go to other pictures of other people.
Ah, okay. So
The
it's a bait and switch.
The porn sites are using her clothed images as a tease to get people to click.
Well, that's interesting, but why is Google at fault when they're accurately...
Well, because the reason why Google's at fault is because that's, the sites are trying to do SEO optimization, and Google claims to try to be thwarting poor quality SEOing.
I would argue this is high quality. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, because if you're expecting to see a naked picture of this person and you're not,
And it's
then
low quality.
that's pretty poor quality.
Well, but this is the oldest trick in the book, where they'll have pictures of clothed, gorgeous-looking models or whatever, and they say, you give us your credit card number and click here to enter the site, and you can see everything, right? And then they don't always define what everything is, right? So then you pay money, you get in there, and there's not much of anything in there, and then of course you're not going to complain when the charge comes through on your credit card because you don't want your wife to find out and so forth, so they get away with it.
No, but this isn't a customer complaint. It's a person whose name is being used for SEO purposes and nothing else.
Yeah, because the customers, like I say, they don't complain. They just get ripped off and move on.
Should Google act in this case, Alan?
If this, I would say yes. In this particular case, it's a bait and switch, and Google said in the past that they're trying to improve SEO quality and prevent these kind of bait and switch things. That's what they've said. And, if they're not going to do it across the board, then what's.
And it's interesting, they do act in specific cases. They can claim, we have policies, whatever, but they do in fact act in specific cases. When that crazy video that came out, the anti-Islamic film came out, they made a big point. They didn't delete it. But then when this thing with the Elliot Rodger Manifesto video came out, they deleted that. But they left the rest of his channel and videos intact. So they do act rapidly when they think, whatever they want to do, they will do.
Well, and
So
we
I wonder
know
why
that they
they're
do
stubborn
act
on
against
this.
Sites. We know that they act against sites that try to game the SEO. We know this. That's like the entire point of the Panda search algorithm, is to try to avoid such sites.
Right.
So if they're going to follow through on it, they need to follow through on it.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the lovely woman who is apparently being abused by porn sites? After hearing Craig's explanation of how they work, one could argue that all people who are involved are abused. Any other thoughts on this? I guess not. Okay. So there, we did our... Speaking of SEO, we did our topic for that. Okay, so next is kind of a related topic. In the European Union, there's this notion of a right to be forgotten. And that gets more to my inaccurate description on the first topic, but it's more accurate to the second topic, where if you've done something in the past, let's say you shoplifted or did something 30 years ago, should the first link to that be that incident when someone Googles you? So in Europe, they've come up with this notion of a right to be forgotten, and then Google has come out with Danny Sullivan, our former guest, and one of the smartest guys on these topics, did a really nice piece on it. And he said it's going to be kind of like the way that they handle copyright strike takedowns, where they do remove it from Google.com. If you're just searching, it's not there. But then you can go to a list of their things, and sometimes there'll be a notification saying this has been removed at the request of so and so. Click here to read it, and you can actually look at an aggregate list of all their takedown notices. I think they publish it quarterly, or I don't know if it's on an ongoing basis now or what, but it actually lists everything, like, freemovies.com slash the X-Men, or whatever. And so you actually can still see the links. They still have them, but they're hidden under this other thing. So it's kind of complicated and kludgy. But Alan, what do you think? This sounds like sort of a kicking and screaming approach to complying, for lack of a better analogy.
There's a couple of things here. For starters, keep in mind that Google is being forced to do this by court order. So the court has essentially handed Google the power to censor it pretty much any way they want with certain parameters. And this form is trying to collect the information based on those parameters. It's clearly a first step. This is just a formalized way to collect the information. They're not saying they're going to do anything about it yet. There's no indication on what the timeline is to remove any of the links. There's a lot of uncertainty here still. The other thing is that they announced with this is that they've created a board to review what their policies are going to be, what their enforcement action, what their legal obligations are, and what their procedures are going to be, and that's being headed up by Eric Schmidt. So they're taking this very seriously. They haven't delegated this to a couple of low-level lawyers. They're taking the issue seriously, and they're addressing it in the way that the court has told them they need to. And we could go back and forth and debate about whether this is whether the action is a good thing, but this is what the European court said. This is how Google's following through on that.
What the central issue here? If you're someone who works at the local newspaper office or the town clerk's office or whatever, and you say, and someone walked in there and said, "Yeah, I'm wondering, there was a famous murder here in 1964. Who was the person who was convicted of that in 1966?" And they say, "Oh, it's so and so who lives up the street." That person's providing you accurate information. And in essence, that's what Google's role is. It's simply pointing you and saying, this is, in fact, what this website says. It doesn't host the content itself, although that's arguable because they cache stuff. The other side of the coin is that...
Wait. You said accurate. Nobody's testing this information to see whether it's accurate or not.
No, they're
why did you say
accurately
accurate?
they're accurately showing that this website says this. I mean, if you say that the sky is blue, or if you say it's purple, right? That's not accurate. But if someone said, "What does Craig Shipp think of that the sky color is?" and I say he says it's purple, I'm accurately showing your view. I mean, these are the actual links. So
but Google is doing the best they can to index information that's out there, and there's nothing that guarantees any kind of accuracy because
that's what Dan is saying. Google is just guaranteeing the accuracy of the index, not the accuracy of the data.
Yeah, an index is the best word. I mean, just like a...
but wait a minute now. They can't even guarantee the accuracy of the index because the index can sometimes be gamed. So, I mean, you can't have it both ways,
but
right?
No, I mean, they do the best they can because there's big money to be made in gaming the index. So it's a constant battle. And they have a whole team specifically on that project, trying to constantly tweak the algorithm as spammers try to sneak their way in.
I agree with everything you've been saying. I just wanted to challenge the word accurate because I use Google all the time, and a lot of times I go through a lot of results that are anything but accurate.
They're the first to admit that search is broken. And my famous example is, what if you were looking for your old high school friend whose name was Justin Bieber, and it's not that Justin Bieber, it's an actual other guy. Think of the Taco Bell commercial that said, found all these people named Ronald McDonald, and they were talking about how great the Taco Bell breakfast was. Well, if you were actually trying to find your old friend Ronald McDonald, it would be very difficult because there's so much. I mean, there are problems with the Google approach, although it's the least bad approach if not the best of the approaches. So, but anyway, so the one side of the coin is Google is simply accurately indexing what's out there on an algorithm that is largely based, not entirely, but largely based on how many quality reputable sites link to this. And if a bunch do, then they produce that at the top. And they've gotten better and better, but it's still far from perfect. The other side of the coin is, what if you are a quote-unquote victim of this thing where you did do something 30 years ago and you're trying to start your life again and you're being judged by your past? Is there a legitimate case to be made for that? Do you have a right for your misdeeds to be forgotten? Should there be a statute of limitations on your misdeeds as far as the internet goes? Let's look at it in that context. Pam, do you think there should be a statute of limitations on the crazy shit you did as a kid, even though you were stupid and posted a picture of you doing it? Should at some point that expire? That's their argument.
Expire how?
A right to be forgotten. To say,
Well, he's saying, should Google pull it out of the index, is what he's saying.
Yeah, do you I mean, seriously, what does expire mean? That all the data that's been on the internet since 1990, whatever, just all of a sudden disappears every year, like every single day. It's like, okay, well, now this group of information just now gets dumped, and then this group of information gets dumped, and then the next day I mean, well,
yeah, that part. So in essence, that
let's
work.
at least be,
so
let's
you
at least
either
be
do it
accurate.
across the board, or
Let's at least be accurate about what the court said. The court didn't say that data expires after some period of time.
no, just the
What they
link.
say- What they said is, for some individuals for which there is no compelling reason to keep this around, can ask to have the links to it removed. Not even remove the data, remove the index to it. So presumably, people who have a political interest, a public face, all of those people would automatically be rejected because there is a compelling interest in having old information found out about them. So the argument might go anyway.
So who's making that decision?
Google.
That's a very good point, Pam. That's
That's not okay with me.
Who's going to make the decision,
So
and by what criteria?
The court was very clear on this. Google makes that decision.
Yeah, that's.
But they don't do it in a vacuum. They don't just arbitrarily say, okay, now, everyone who was arrested on this date, however many years ago, now gets all their links expunged. It doesn't. Someone has to request that, and then Google does something with it. So Google's not really making the decision; they're just deciding on someone's request. That's a totally different story. It's not like what they do to search.
Making the final decision whether or not to remove the links.
Yes, but they don't know they don't even know the link exists until someone files the form. It's not like it's not like they've got some huge spreadsheet that says Joe Blow and then all the Joe Blow's links.
As Dan pointed out, in a way, that's the same action that they take about copyrighted material. They don't take any action on links to copyrighted material until the copyright holder comes and says, hey, this points to my material and I want it taken down.
Actually, now they're
done that
taking
4
action
times.
before that, which really pisses me off. But
No, we're not talking YouTube stuff.
yeah, okay.
YouTube's a different story, and I don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
I've done 4 of those requests to have my copyrighted material removed, and Google honored them every single time.
Removed from YouTube or a link removed to them?
Removed from Google+.
Okay.
You had a malicious person posing as you, right?
I had people using my image of me in a disparaging way for a long period of time. Yes. So.
Are you the one who's appearing on Argentine porn sites?
I wish, and send me the money too. If they're linking, using my picture, they better be kicking down with some of that profit.
This is interesting because all of us have done something stupid when we were young.
Nope, I never did. Not till I was 19.
Some of us are still doing things that are stupid now that we're old.
Now that's true. I did stupid
You're
stuff
not old.
last
You
week.
can't. You're not there yet, Pam. I'll let you know when you're there.
So, yeah, okay. So anyway, in the European Union, you have a right to be forgotten. There are many things I've done which I wish I could just strip from the internet, but then Google's being,
But then your sister will put them in a book, or you'll tell them about us on the air.
or Perez Hilton will mention it in a surprisingly nice way. All right, so that happened. That's 10 minutes you'll never get back. Okay, next is Google's building its own driverless car, and we saw this. This is really cool. We've been talking about this for quite some time. I think they're going to build, I think they said like 50 or something, or 500, whatever, prototypes.
Well, hang on a second. You just kind of dismissed it by saying we've seen this for a long time. No, we haven't. We've seen Google build systems that make cars driverless. The news that came out this week is that they're actually going to be working on the car part of the driverless car. So they're building 100 cars that are designed to not have a steering wheel, but will have a steering wheel because states require them still.
That sucks.
So they're building 100 of those. They demonstrated what looked like one prototype, which actually didn't have the steering wheel, on a closed track, and it's a pretty incredible video if you haven't seen it.
Wait a minute. The whole like there's no steering wheel thing is BS?
Well, no. Their prototype does not have a steering wheel. The problem is, in order for it to be street legal, currently the states require a steering wheel and brakes. So on one hand, they're saying we've got this concept car that doesn't have a steering wheel, and we're going to have to stick a steering wheel in it in order to actually use it on the street. But at the same time, they're also saying, oh, but it only goes 25 miles an hour anyway, so who the hell wants this golf cart on a street? They're essentially building a street legal golf cart.
I gotta tell you,
Exactly.
I'm not gonna.
Exactly.
I'm not going to be the
faster,
first person to go on
No, it looks
495 in a
just like,
vehicle with no steering wheel.
I live within a stone's throw of Sun City, California. Okay, it's now part of Menifee, but it used to be a kind of a famous place for senior communities. And I have to tell you, it's like golf cart city, and they have like souped up golf carts. They've got golf carts that cost more than my truck. And I have to tell you, this thing goes slower than golf carts, because some of the golf carts can go up to 40
But
miles an
Pam,
hour.
they're saying that the first ones are going to go 25, but they're saying that they're planning on them going faster, so that it's not going to be capped at 25 forever.
Oh, I realize that. I totally realize that. Yeah.
And also, Pam, if you're putting around town, if you're in an urban environment, you rarely go over 25 miles an hour anyway.
There are,
Depends on where you are.
as I say, where I live, the immediate 244 homes neighborhood that I live in, the speed limit's 25, but just go right out to the main street there, it's 55, and if you go out to the main street here, it's 45, and then once you get to Newport, it's 55.
Yeah, but you're in a suburb. You're not in an urban area. I'm talking about in a city.
Yeah,
What?
but
Yeah, Craig. California.
You don't have roads
Yeah.
with a 55 mile an hour speed limit in Manhattan.
Yeah, we got
They don't,
three
you
little
know.
tiny cities. I mean, they have a lot of people in them, but yeah, you don't. You're not gonna.
I mean, in downtown Washington, D.C., rarely do you go over 25 miles an hour, is my point. In a downtown city area, 25 is actually pretty good.
I think the speed's irrelevant, though, to be honest. I think it's more of the statement on, hey, this can happen, and this is the step to making it happen.
I think the speed is only relevant in looking at, okay, is this car a legitimate design moving forward, or is this just the first very, very early prototype, and they're going to need to completely redesign the engine system before they put it out there?
I think the physical car is not the point here, though. I think the physical car is only the gateway to getting driverless cars, the system and the platform more acceptable.
That
Let's
doesn't make any sense though, because if no, I'm not sure I
just
agree with that, Michael.
let's just
It's
hope
up
that the
now. They've had
Google,
this
Google
on
won't be
Twitter.
the only car manufacturer out there. I mean, they
Let-
got to get
let's
other
just-
car manufacturers take on.
let's
Yeah,
just hope that
Volvo
the
is gonna
final
beat the
design
market.
doesn't look like Totoro.
Volvo
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Volvo is going to be to market with the cars before Google. Google's said what, 2020? And I think
They were saying 2017.
with this car, the prototype, I think they're now saying 2020 with that. And now Volvo is saying something like 2017, 2016, something like that. Volvo has and they've announced firmly, not a wishy-washy date. They've announced a firm date. So I think we're going to see them overseas before we see them in this country. Again, we're going to drag our heels because of these regulators. Not saying you got to have a steering wheel. What are they thinking? That's not the point of this car. The point of this car is to get the idiots behind the steering wheel out of the equation. That's the whole point of it. That's why I want one. I want one as soon as the freaking thing's available.
So you can bitch about how it doesn't work and how,
Well, I'm hoping Apple will make one.
No, so he can do a YouTube review of how awesome it is, or how it just sucks. As long as he can do, a monetized
I mean, when
YouTube
Brad
video.
when Brad from Tech Webcast, by the way, Brad's Tech Webcast
You
show.
really want Apple to make one? I mean, look at what they did with Maps on the first version. Really, Craig? Come on.
Is Brad's Tech Webcast show tonight, Dan?
I think so. I don't know what time it is though.
Okay.
Is it-
Anyway, when Brad shared a picture of this car on Facebook a couple days ago when it was announced, he asked the question, would you buy one or ride in one or drive one or whatever? I forget exactly how he phrased the question. And my response was, if Google makes it, no. If Apple makes it, yes. So yeah, I mean, if somebody does it that does it right, that dots the I's and crosses the T's, I want one. Absolutely, I want
And you're not giving
I'm
Google
sorry,
a chance
Craig.
to do
I've
that,
got no
Craig.
confidence at all that Apple would do it right on their first 3 tries.
They will probably do it after somebody else does it. They'll go to school on what somebody else did and all the mistakes they'd made, and
Now,
then they'll
Craig,
come
the
out with one that
reason
works.
why I don't think Apple would Apple might make a very pretty car, but they wouldn't make a car that actually could
Functionality.
drive itself without accidentally driving into a brick wall.
Just
That's
they
right.
made it-
I
Functionality.
disagree. My iPhone is very reliable. I have no reliability issues at all with
But,
it.
Craig, here's the problem. The concepts behind a driverless car are way more advanced than Apple has even begun to tackle. This actually requires some deeply advanced, computer learning knowledge, which is a field that Apple knows less than nothing about. Apple can't even get memory management on iOS to work correctly.
They
No,
can't
where
even
they-
get-
look how long they struggle with their cloud product.
Not a freaking chance.
They can't even get music
Well,
online
all I
yet.
can say is all the
Look how
stuff
much they struggle with their cloud product, too.
works
They
every
struggle-
time, and that's what you want from a car. That's all I can say.
Just
Right,
like
but-
they're gonna have a TV.
But again, this car that's driving itself, Craig, it has a lot of things it's relying on, whether it's services, whether it's cloud, and we already know Apple struggles in that area. Apple can build a nice product, but they can't provide a great service. Look at Mobile
But
Me.
they
look
might
at-
partner with some
look at
other
iCloud. Look
companies
at
to
that
provide
disaster.
they might partner with some other people to provide the missing links.
Yeah,
Apple's
we
just
say
partnering.
that. We've seen them. Wait. We've seen them do that, Craig. We've seen them do that. Apple Maps. They partnered with TomTom, and now you can't even get around the corner.
No. Back up a second. When they first came
What
out with
about
the first
iTunes?
iPhone, when they first come out with the first iPhone, it had Google
They
Maps
bought
on it.
iTunes. They bought
Google
iTunes.
Maps and
It
Google
had
Maps
Google
works
Maps
great.
on it.
And
So
Google
they're
Maps
not
work
above-
great.
They're not above using some other service when they roll something out. So they might do the same thing with the car. They might build parts of it, and for the maps they might use Google. For something else they might use somebody else. But the point is they look at all the details and they make sure the daggone thing works. And that's
Not
what
every
Google's not real good at, is looking
Not
at all
every
the
time,
details.
Craig. Not every time, Craig.
My stuff works. All I can
Mobile
say
Me.
is all my
Mobile Me
stuff
is one
works.
example. Mobile Me, you remember that disaster of a launch when we went
I
from
didn't
.Mac to
use
Mobile Me?
I didn't use it.
Exactly, it was trashed. That's why
Yeah.
you didn't use
So-
it.
So I'm
iCloud
just
is
saying the
still
stuff
struggling
I
right to
use.
this day.
I'm just saying the stuff that I use works fine, and so they might do it. But I do want one, and I guess I'll risk it. If it's only Google doing it, and they're the only one to come out with it, then I'll go for it, because I want a driverless car, period.
So you're willing to give the driverless car by Google a try?
If I have to, if nobody else has one at the time, yeah.
Okay.
I'll do it.
So we've made some milestones with Craig, guys.
I'll do it. I want one bad.
Okay, so there we go. All right, next is this other story we saw related to the cars. This was an interesting story about the legality of this. California is, of course, where Google is located, and they kind of met with the legislators, and they helped craft the law to try to explain it, because the DMV was very motivated to have, driverless cars happen, but do it in a safe way. And of course, they didn't want to do a 5-year thing and it just take forever and never happen. And so they actually invited Google in, and they helped craft the laws and the regulations that are going to govern this thing. And so that's interesting, because often we criticize that approach where they bring in the industry. And Craig and I would be the first to criticize that, where they bring in the industry lobbyists or the industry representatives themselves to come in and craft laws that screw other people. But in this case, we're for this technology, and Google is well, every car company just about is in some stage of researching this. Google is clearly the leader and has cars on the road and has, approaching 1 million miles under their belt. But ordinarily, we would frown upon this. But I'm for this because I think it's awesome, because our guys has the in and is going to hopefully get this
but
to
the
happen.
regulators now, have they actually said that they have to put a steering wheel in the daggone thing?
I don't think that is.
Do we know this is true?
Well, Craig, that's what existing laws require. Nobody's went back.
But are
and
they going to
relooked
make
at
them put the? Alan was basically saying that in the subsequent prototypes that they're going to build, not the one they have now, but the other 100 or whatever, that they're going to have freaking steering wheels.
No, it's an issue
This is
because that's the
insane.
existing law. That's the existing law. Nobody's
I
went back.
know. Change it. Change the freaking law.
Well, you know what country we in. That's not that easy.
That's why we're going to be left behind. When Carnegie built the shipping lines and all that stuff and built all that infrastructure, he did it himself. He said, the heck with everybody else, I'm going to build the infrastructure for all this stuff. And then when he sold all that and then built the railroads, he did the same daggone thing, and nobody got in his way. And so we're we've got the best rail system of any country in the world.
Nobody got in his way. That implies no government involvement. They set up the ability of those railroad companies to be able to take your land.
But he pretty much did it all himself, really. I mean, he's just stepped up and put his money up and made things happen. He did the same thing with the shipping lines and so on and so forth. And yes, he made them get out of his way. He basically forced them. But the point is, we need to make things happen with this driverless car thing. They say they want them to be safe. Hey, duh, reality check. I don't think the system you have right now is safe. 40 or 50,000 people a year are dying on the freaking highways. So it's not like what you have now is safe. So why not try something else that has already been proven to be safe? My gosh, they've been driving these things for hundreds of thousands of miles and nobody's been hurt. So we already know they're a lot safer than the cars that are out there now. So of course they should open their arms wide and they should let these things hit the road. I mean, they tell them they got to put a steering wheel in it. That defeats the whole purpose. You get some idiot behind the wheel with a steering wheel. That's what we don't want.
I could see initially a steering wheel would be something I would be reluctant to go on 495 in a vehicle that had no steering wheel or brakes until I knew the thing worked. And what if
We already know they work, Dan. They've been using them for hundreds of thousands of miles. We know they work. They work a lot better than everything else.
Not in the snow or the fog. Even Google's
In this
admitted
way,
that.
in this way, you can be hog drunk and be behind the wheel or not, no wheel, and they can just take you wherever you want to go, and you don't have to worry about it. I think it's great.
So this way, when you're driving by and you see a hot hooping chick on the right, you
I've
won't
already
accidentally, you won't steer to the right as you're looking.
I already talked to Audrey from Hooping Live. By the way, Hooping Live is Monday nights at 9 p.m., hoopinglive.com. I already talked to her when I found out about these cars. I said, you're gonna be the first rider in my riderless car, and she agreed. So we're gonna have some fun in the driverless car. We're gonna have some fun in the driverless car.
Okay. All right.
I want the first one. Period. I'll move to California if I have to. I don't care.
All right, done. We'll make it happen. All right, next is there's no link on the next topic in the doc. If someone wants to add that link, we can cover it. But I'm not aware of that story. The Google logos thing. What's the deal? Okay, so I'm gonna postpone on that. I see Gmail interface redesign hinted at in leaked images. And
Do we have any comments? I don't have the comment tracker open. Do you? Are you
As
tracking?
soon as I said no, as soon as I shook my head no, we had a comment pop in.
Okay.
So the cities will try to stop self-driving cars because it's lost revenue from the tickets. I'm assuming that's towards Craig and Dan.
I think.
Hey, that is a fantastic comment, and we really should have touched on this, Dan. We
Oh my
talked-
God.
Craig had to take his glasses off.
Oh my God, he's getting ready. He's got all his accessories off. He's ready to unleash. Unleash the anti-government
talked
venom.
about this, Dan, you and I talked about this the other day.
Exactly,
We
just
were
like
talking about-
in the last 24 hours, I think.
we were talking about this, and it's going to disrupt a lot of things. I mean, think about all the ambulance chasing lawyers. I mean, think about the insurance companies. I mean, this is going to disrupt a lot more than we even know. And we were talking about the taxi companies. My gosh, the president of the county commissioners here in Frederick County, Blaine Young, he owns the taxi company, and he has like 60 or 70 cabs on the road at all times. And they're all people driving them, right? That all have jobs. Guess what? All those jobs will go away.
But guess what, though? Things will naturally evolve. No one builds typewriters no more. All of them lost their jobs when typewriters went out. But, I mean, they got other things. So, I mean, it's just a progression or a revolution.
Well, we have a jobless future. I mean, there won't be any jobs in the future. So there'll be very, very few. But the point is that this is going to disrupt so many things.
That's great, I think.
I think it's great because I'm not in any of those businesses that are going to be disrupted. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to fight this tooth and nail, just like Comcast is fighting, running fiber to everybody's house, right? There are entities out there that are going to fight this tooth and nail because it is going to be very disruptive. So let the war games begin.
And then if, let's say, Google purchases Uber and use these in place of that, I mean, there's a lot of changes that would happen in the mix of all this. So.
Oh my gosh.
That would be a good purchase. That would be a good.
Yeah, definitely.
acquisition.
Well, think about all the parking garages and all these different things that can be disrupted, because we could get to the point where there's just cars out there that are just shared by everybody, and they're just bouncing around, and they go to these little charging stations and top off their electricity while they're waiting for the next rider, and then they go pick up the next one and take them somewhere, and you wouldn't need all the parking spaces that you have now. Everybody wouldn't have to have a car, right? One car might be able to take care of 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 people. So you're going to disrupt the car business. So they're not going to sell as many cars. And of course, if they're all electric, then all those components that aren't being made, all those internal combustion engines and so on and so forth, I mean, there's just a huge amount of disruption potentially here. I love it.
Yeah, I can't wait. Cannot
I think
wait.
it's all for the good.
Okay, so this next did you want to say something, Michael?
No, I think it's all for the good as long as there's competition.
Absolutely. Except against area guys, there should be no competition.
Well, there should be competition, because what we're talking about here is cars that really should be relatively easy to build once all the dust settles, because the electric cars have only like one moving part in their engine, the armature or whatever you call it, right? And a lot fewer moving parts in the transmission, if they even have one. So they're actually a very simple, very durable vehicle if they're built right. And so you should be able to have a lot of companies compete in that space. Like I say, Apple should be making one. Google makes one. Facebook can come out with a Facebook car. I mean, everybody can be making these little electric cars that are just bouncing all around the place. I think it's cool stuff.
Okay, so next up, hopefully Michael and or Cadeas can weigh in on this, our developer guys here. But there's a story, and it originates from a post from a guy named Yoel Kassab, and he's posted what are apparently leaks of a new Gmail and some Google plusification of the interface. This is on the heels of that awful TechCrunch story, the Walking Dead story, which said they're going to, stop all plusification of everything. But apparently that's not the case with Gmail, one of their flagship products. So I see a new look here, and then we see like this. I think I've seen some of this already. But what's the deal on this, guys? What do you think?
I mean, what exactly is new?
I'm not sure.
This looks like it's just they're saying it's taking design cues from Google Plus is all. It's not really saying much of anything else. Just a few elements. The way Google Plus looks is kind of being brought over to the Gmail app in some ways or another. In the photo that's being used on here, it is the. Let me move it over here. It is the like, for example, you get the right button that's floating on the new Gmail app. So with the Google Plus app, you have the right button that's floating. So just glance at this photo that he has. It's just saying that like the plus button is floating out there. So he's just saying Google Plus, so that way he gets some clickbait, basically.
Yeah, they're talking about the little white bar on the top thing, like the new Google Plus, app has. I mean, Google has gotten better and better with the design and look of their products, and I mean, them using like cards, like the Google Now cards, and other places like Glass and other things like that. I mean, they've definitely improved loads beyond design-wise across their products, across the board. I think mean, Craig cannot say nowadays. Craig cannot say nowadays that it does not at least look good. He can say it might not, but he cannot say it doesn't look good.
What, Google Plus or Gmail?
Any Google product, any major Google product has at least
a lot better. Right? It looks a lot better.
I'm not really that picky about how things look, to tell you the truth. I mean, as long as they work, that's a bigger thing for me.
But I mean, isn't that Apple's selling point? Is that it looks good? I mean,
that's a bonus. Sure, the fact that the iPhone 5S just looks like a freaking work of art and feels like one. It's just a gorgeous piece of craftsmanship. That's
you just
great.
Described this email. You described Google's. That's how it looks to me. I mean, yeah.
That's great. I mean, but it also has to work. And so Gmail works. I have no problem. I use Gmail all the time. I use it in the browser. That's how I use it on both my phone and.
You're one of the first users.
I was a beta tester in the way back when. Well, I think most of us were, and I've been using it ever since. I was happy with it pretty much from the start. So, and it works. So I mean, what's to complain about?
Typical Google success story, right, Craig? All right. Next up is this YouTube creator preview story. They announced this. Actually, before I do that, let me throw up a couple comments here from Mady Crit. If I'm trying to pronounce that right. The cities will try to stop self-driving cars because of loss. Oh, we said that. He says the only thing that would stop me from sharing these cars is the hygiene, except if it has an auto wash, as in The Fifth Element. That would be interesting. And Margie says, I'm just waiting for the Google Stars conversation. I've been begging for an upgrade to Google bookmarks for a long time, she says. So there's that. And please comment if you're watching. We love comments, and we'll.
The comment about the hygiene, we talked about that too, Dan. And so, like any other service, again, this is where the competition comes in. So you can have higher end services that make sure that the car is clean between uses, and the car itself, the whole outside is clean, and it's maybe a higher end vehicle with maybe a computer workstation built into it, or Wi-Fi or whatever, and so various companies can compete and provide these vehicles at different levels of service, and of course at different levels of cost. So, if you want a gorgeous one that looks like a limousine that seats 5 people or whatever, then somebody's probably going to come out with one of those.
Sure, and in cities with a population that could support something like that, like some California cities, New York, LA, DC, I'm sure you'd see something like that. But I don't see like driverless cars happening in the next year or two, as far as like everyone's got one in their driveway. I do think it would be neat if you came up with a town that was purely driverless, except maybe for like fire engines or something, or police cars or whatever. But in general, you couldn't have a regular car. Then you
that
could
town
really
Celebration, Florida, where they first tested out trying to do something like that with segways and with golf carts and so forth, like Pam was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there near Disneyland. A town like that decided to do it. Absolutely.
Did it work?
Well, we'd have to research it, but I mean, they did it, and they had a lot of electric vehicles there. I don't think it was just that you couldn't have an internal combustion engine, but they had a ton of electric vehicles there, including a bunch of Segways. So, but this is a little bit different, where this really is a fantastic solution to a major problem, which is people getting killed in car accidents because drivers are idiots. So, I mean, this definitely solves. Very few car accidents are because of mechanical failure. I'll put it that way.
Agreed. Okay, so next up is this story about YouTube, and this is for content creators. YouTube aims to help content creators with its new creator preview project, and what the basic thing is that they're saying before they announce stuff, they're going to try to, unless it's like a trade secret, they're going to try to give you an idea of what they're working on. And maybe this is because they've been so slow at releasing new stuff that they want to placate the masses as they work out the bugs. But this is a blog post from YouTube, and some of the stuff is a separate mobile app that puts the creator features that quote unquote you told us are most important to have in the palm of your hand, right where you need them, end quote. A feature that allows fans to directly contribute funds to their favorite creators on YouTube, and then a way to create captions, crowdsourced captions and subtitles for the videos in over 60 languages. So some of these are cool. I do think that one of the things that was interesting to me was one of these guys said that you can't make enough money in YouTube, and that's why so many legacy content producers are reluctant to embrace it, because there's really no money in online video. It just doesn't pay. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's too low, or if the legacy media is too high, or what it is. But the gap between how much you can make with a show on a major cable network, Shark Week or Fox News, or on a broadcast network, CBS, NBC, or whatever, the gap between those things and what you can make on YouTube, you would have to have 1,000 times the audience to make close to the money that you can make.
Because there's an unlimited supply of content on YouTube, and it's only getting worse. It's more and more all the time.
Or better
So,
from the consumer's perspective, as long as the
if you have a
filtering's
huge
there.
amount of supply of the content, and then you have a relatively limited amount of ads, right, that people want to buy, you only have a certain number of businesses out there that want to buy ads, and that number's not growing anywhere near as fast as the number of videos on YouTube.
But explain why the exact same show, broadcasting live on CNN, would generate X amount of money, or on ABC or whatever network, and then when you run the same exact show on YouTube, that the revenue is pennies to the
Because you have a
dollars on the
limited amount of
broadcast.
shows on that cable network, even though there's 300 channels or whatever there are now, right? That's still a limit. It's still limited, and each of those channels can only be on the air 24 hours a day, right?
But
So they can
the
only show so much.
advertisers. Okay, I hear you, but the advertisers, why are they willing to pay more for traditional broadcast than they are on YouTube? Because it's still a person watching the show.
Because it's a limited amount of inventory, and so and there's a certain amount of people that want to buy ads, right? And so there's scarcity there. And so if you have a certain number of people in effect bidding for those ads, and they're not really doing it like an auction, right? But it's still the same thing. If you have a certain number of people that want to buy ads, and then you have only a certain amount of ad real estate to sell, then that's going to keep that price up. Eventually, that will start collapsing too, because as the eyeballs, the people that are watching, as those eyeballs slowly drift away from that and are no longer watching, then they won't be able to command as high a price for the eyeballs that they have watching, because there aren't going to be as many eyeballs. But the bottom line is they have limited inventory, and so that's keeping the price relatively high. But on YouTube, it's unlimited inventory. I mean, it's more all the time. And so it does not look good for people that are trying to make money on YouTube.
I mean, I don't think it looks good for YouTube at all, to be honest. 'Cause, I mean, a lot of the producers are fighting YouTube into, I mean, doing their own, thing or their own option, because, I mean, why they can cut out the middleman, in effect. And I mean, like HBO, for example, they're thinking, I mean, here they're talking about doing their own subscription plan and all that. I mean, I think advertisers would choose the big name people, because they already have a base. They already have those hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people watching those things. So, I mean, they already have that in. So, I mean, that's why I don't think the big advertisers go with Google, because, I mean,
Michael, all their numbers are
not as
down
high
too.
on YouTube as it is on something like Game of Thrones.
All the numbers for the major networks and the cable companies, and all those numbers are sliding too. So
They're sliding, but I mean, they're in the millions. Whereas if you look on YouTube, I mean, there are not that many videos with millions of views. When you can
Hey,
get
Dan.
millions of views in one night.
Dan?
Yep.
We're having technical difficulties on the. I think your internet connection, something went wrong, because you were kind of skipping out earlier, and now we're getting people saying that there's nothing streaming.
Okay.
I'll look more.
Cadeas, can you carry on for a moment while I investigate?
So now we can say whatever we want because we're not being broadcast?
No, it's typically when these things happen, there is a glitch in the live thing, but almost always when it's processed and up on YouTube afterward, it's fully there. So you cannot strip to your thong dance.
So we better put something in the in the comments saying that what you're missing
Looking into
now
it.
you will be able to watch later.
All right, Pam and Cadeas, take over, please. I'll be right back.
Pam, you're in charge.
Maybe Cadeas should be in charge if he unmutes himself, because I just came back in after stepping out.
So I'll get Craig going.
Yeah, get Craig going on this, because he.
I mean, I'm gonna be upset with Apple if they don't release nothing of any note at WWDC, because I think they're going downhill. I mean, I really do.
Well, I predicted on this show, geez, a couple of years ago now. My gosh, how time flies.
I don't think it's been that long. Well, at least I don't think it's been that long, but maybe you've just said it so often that
I said the first time I said it on this show was probably a couple of years ago, near the beginning. I said that I thought Apple was going to crash and burn, and quite frankly, I'm surprised that they haven't already started a real tailspin. I am shocked that they can maintain the margins that they've been maintaining. I mean, it is against all logic that they can continue to sell the number of iPhones that they sell at the markup that they're selling them at, and just continue to do it time and time again. And they'll probably release the iPhone 6 and do the same thing again, sell like 50 million of them in like a weekend or some sort of ridiculous number. I mean, that is just insane. The only reason they're able to do it, I'm convinced they're able to continue to do it, is because the Android phones are such crap. I mean, if Android phones, if they'd come out with anything decent, they could.
You cannot say that in general.
Okay,
You're
great.
looking at the low-end phones that you still call crap, but
Most of them are
not
low-
like
Not
that.
only that, even he's looking at from 2-3 years ago. He's not even
Most
looking at.
of the Android phones are low-end crap, but there's very few that. Name one that's a high-end, decent phone.
Can name 4.
Name one. Just pick one.
Galaxy S5.
5.
That thing's a plastic piece of junk.
Okay, so now are we talking about build quality, or are we talking about how? the
Yeah, we're
product
talking
is?
about build quality. We're talking about software.
Okay, I got one then.
apps.
HTC One.
The bag of hurt.
HTC One.
Build
That's
quality
junk
number 1.
too. That's a little bit better than the Galaxy line, but it's still
Better than the iPhone too, Craig. It's better than the iPhone too
Even
at
the
build quality.
camera is terrible on it. I mean, first of all,
Craig,
people
before you
use
start
their
talking about the
cell
camera,
phone-
the
Here's the
S5 beats
deal.
your camera.
here's the deal, Google. Here's the deal, Google. People use their iPhone, their phone, their cell phone as a camera. Guess what? They use it all the time as a camera. So put a damn good camera in it. What do you all
And they
think?
have. Where you been at, Craig? They have. This is the Galaxy S5.
No, all the reviewers are saying that the iPhone 5S still has the best camera of all the cell phones, and it's like a year old now.
This is the Galaxy S5, Craig. You've looked at my photos and you've commented and told me that my photos were probably better than what you've ever seen. And you didn't realize they was coming out of this phone because I relabeled them on purpose.
You're thinking of somebody else.
No, I'm thinking of
sure
you, Craig.
probably have taken some good photos. A great photographer can take a lousy camera and make a good picture. I'm telling you, you can do that because you're good. But the average photographer out there that takes one of those phones and takes a picture, it's going to look blurry. It's going to be really bad, especially in low light.
That is not true.
The iPhone, they take it with the iPhone.
Galaxy S5. Have you put your hands on the Galaxy S5?
And I have to tell you that my Note 3 does excellent low light pictures. I mean,
Better than the iPhone. That one's the second one. That's better than the
Fantastic.
You're probably a very good photographer and you're getting the most out of it. But most people, the photos they're taking with those Android.
I took a picture of my feet and
Lousy.
posted them yesterday.
What?
I said I took a picture of my feet and posted them yesterday. I
Great.
mean, what? I just take random pictures. There's no.
But you're a fantastic.
Talk about the Galaxy S5 until you pick it up and use it. When you use it,
I'm telling you that
be
most
honest.
of the reviewers. I'm telling you most of the
I'm
honest.
not talking about reviewers. I'm talking about Craig Ship. If you pick it up and you actually use it one
First
time.
of all, I don't want a phone that big and bulky. I carry my phone right on my hip all the time.
What about when the
Right here.
new iPhone comes out and it's bigger? What happens when the new iPhone comes out next month and it's bigger?
I'm gonna keep this one for another year. Is what I'm gonna do, and hopefully they will come out with 2 models because this one's only a year old now. or
You're gonna
going
get
on
the
a year
C. You're gonna get the iPhone C.
old. Hopefully they'll come out with 2 models. One.
Yeah,
and
the C.
Hopefully they'll maintain this size on one, and then they'll have the larger one too.
Yeah, that'll be the 6C, Craig. So you're going to go with the 6C? That's not like Craig Ship.
If they put a low-line processor and all that crap in it, no, I will not. I'll stay with this phone. And then if they only have the biggest one, hopefully, I don't think it's going to be as big as the Android phone.
No, Craig. They can't have too many versions, or it's fragmentation, Craig. If there's too many versions, they have, the middle line and the high line.
Hey, Michael, I agree with you. I'm concerned. I do not want a bigger phone, but I mean, I'm hoping that they're smart about it, and the bezel's so small, and the way they make it that it doesn't feel as big and that it is still good in the hand to use one-handed. I'll have to cross that bridge when I come to it, but I might keep this phone for 3 years.
And you're gonna
if I
become a
have to.
BlackBerry user.
And
You
to
just hold
tell
on
you
to
the
your
truth,
phone
and to
until-
tell you the truth, if they really screw it up, I may go to the point where I just have no phone. I might just get rid of the damn phone and just not have one. I really don't even use it that much that I really need it. Oh, you're muted, I think.
No, you can go back to the one in the suitcase. It'll probably do it.
Wow.
There you go. Actually, I didn't have a suitcase phone. I had a handheld phone.
The one you showed at one you showed us came out of some case.
Well, I have the custom-made case that the phone goes into.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was made by Motorola. Let me get it. This is a real collector's item.
You know what kind of phones Motorola make now, don't you, Craig?
That was a good one. That was a good one. You might
That's
end up
because
with
they are
the
bought by
phone.
Google.
So this thing has a bunch of art supplies in it now, but this was made and right here. Oops. Right here, if you open this was where the phone went, in this compartment here. It fit right in there.
And you liked that phone, didn't you?
Oh man, it was great. It worked great.
Was it too big?
That was back in 1980, though. You guys weren't even born yet.
Nope, I wasn't.
Sure wasn't.
I was.
I don't believe it, Pam. I don't believe that for a minute.
Didn't you make money with that phone? CNN, or I guess CNN wasn't there yet. They were in the late 80s. But didn't
I don't-
the
it might
TV
have-
station or somebody
I
pay
don't
you to
remember
use your phone?
Which company it was? It might have been CNN. Are you sure they weren't in business then?
Maybe it was 80.
Yeah, so this was when the guy blew up the he threatened to blow up the Washington Monument. He backed up a van right up to it and then claimed that it was full of explosives. And there was a standoff there. And they were having the various news agencies were having problems getting their signals through and all that with the old conventional phones that they had with a limited number of frequencies and all. And their handhelds and all, they're having all kinds of problems. So yeah, they paid me by the hour to come down there and use the phone, and then the standoff went on and on and on, like all night. And so they're paying me like $400 an hour or something. And I was happy. I said, yeah, keep it as long as you need it.
June 1st, 1980 is when CNN was founded. That's a long time, 34 years. they've been
Yeah.
going.
And so, yeah, Google see if you can find out when that guy was blowing up the Washington Monument. I think his name was Mayer or something, Mayer or something. But he backed up a van to the Washington Monument and threatened to blow it up. They ended up shooting him. Marion Barry was there, and he came up and they interviewed him after the thing, and he said, "Yeah, the man's dead." Pretty funny. But
Okay, so just to Norman David Mayer was an American anti-nuclear weapons activist who was shot and killed by the United States Park Police after threatening to blow up the Washington Monument.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in 1982.
Yep.
Since he was shot to death, I'm assuming that his death date is the same as that date. So that was 2 years into CNN. 2.5 years.
Yeah. In the
So it probably
test,
was
the
CNN
actual
you were working for.
the actual test started in June of 1980, and then it went on for like 2 years. This was towards the tail end of the test, and then in 1983 was when they came out with the actual phone that you could buy, the actual handheld 8000 Motorola 8000X was the one that I bought, and then I had to turn in the prototype unit.
Hey, Craig. Hey, Craig. Cybernaut wants to know if you've read the latest internet trends. And it looks as though the Android adoption has ramped up 6 times faster than the iPhone.
Have they read the TechCrunch article that came out recently, where they said that the iPhone 5S was still the best cell phone out there by far? So
Um,
go to TechCrunch
yeah,
and,
you can ask them that.
yeah, so
Cyber.
go to TechCrunch and do a keyword search of iPhone 5S or 5S, and you'll see the article came out just a couple weeks ago where they said it's still the best. So
Just to clarify, Craig, why did they kill the guy? Because it says
he started to drive away. He had a football helmet on, and he was wearing like a ski, like a whole like coverall outfit and all.
right.
And they couldn't see what he was doing or whatever. And he went and he got in the van, and he started to drive away at a high rate of speed. And of course, all the cop cars around, all the sharpshooters and all that, and they just let loose on him. They just, I mean, they just riddled the van.
Should
And-
should it be a death offense to threaten to blow up a building when there are actually no explosives of any kind in your vehicle?
Well, he lied to them. I mean, it was a van you couldn't see in. It didn't have any windows, and
So he was like
claimed-
Saddam Hussein. He had weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah. Well, think about it. If somebody goes into the 7-Eleven and they've got their hand in their pocket and they're acting like they've got a gun and they're threatening the guy, okay, I'm going to shoot you if you don't give me the money. I think the guy should have every right to pull the gun and do what he needs to do. I mean, he doesn't know if the guy does or doesn't actually have the gun.
So you're for big government if someone's going to blow you up. Just to clarify.
Hey, if I can make $400 an hour,
Was it that much?
that's how much they paid me. Yeah.
Oh my God. And that's our exclusive interview with former CNN correspondent Craig Shipp. All right, so
They had
next
to
up,
keep charging it because it'll only go a half an hour on a charge. It would only talk a half an hour. And then they had to plug it in.
so they had like their reporters on the scene. They were using your phone to talk. I'm so.
No, they were using it to relay cues back and forth or something.
They literally had didn't they have satellite technology then, or was that not happening then?
The problem was that because there were so many different agencies down there with different communication devices and all, they were all interfering with each other. And their old trunking systems that had a limited number of frequencies that scanned frequencies and they could make a phone call back and forth or whatever, and their two-way radios, they were all screwing up, basically. They were making it happen. The other guys that didn't have these phones were able to make things happen, right? But it was convenient to have the phone. And CNN had one already. They were one in the test. There were 150 of these phones in existence. And so they wanted another one, and so they called Emily, who worked for Motorola at the time, at the 3rd Street office in D.C. That's where I used to go. If the thing would stop working, I'd go down there and they just exchange it, because they had 150 there, and the 150 were out in the field. So they had a duplicate for every phone in case something happened or whatever. And so I'd go down there and exchange it. But anyway, she told them, she said, call Craig, he'll probably let you use it. So they called me, and I said, yeah, but I got to stay with it. And it's got to be in my site all the time. And they said, okay. And I said, so you'll have to pay me to be down there. And they said, well, how much is that? And I gave them the number. They said, okay. So
This is a great scam. So you got $400 an hour to stand there with your cell phone.
I didn't. They held it. I just watched it.
Was it even called a cell phone then?
Yeah. It was a cellular system. There were 3 towers around D.C. There was one in Columbia, Maryland, and there were 3 around Baltimore. There were a total of 7 cells. That's it. And guess what? The thing worked great.
And that's kind of like how our phones work today, right? They work pretty well, right?
Actually, in some ways, that one worked better
Oh,
than the
boy.
ones we have now.
All right, so Apple and Google formally agreed to a $325 million wage settlement. Take it away, Dan.
Okay, so so this is a scandal. By the way, I'm waiting for Alan. Alan's back, so we can do the stars thing in a second. But he
Alan's
shared that
been
with
back and has been wondering what the hell you guys were talking about.
I tried to save y'all.
Hey, that's what happens.
All right, so Apple and Google have formally agreed to a $325 million wage settlement, most of which I'm assuming will go to attorneys, members of the bar.
They need the money.
Negotiated this exactly because they're not going to get money from car crashes because everyone's going to stop driving cars. They're just going to ride in them. And
That's
how do
right.
you sue a computer? So there's that. Okay, so
You really don't know how to sue a computer, Dan?
They're doing that in the EU right now.
Nobody's suing Google at all about maps. You know, they're not.
anyways, anyways,
You want to talk about Waze? We can talk about Waze.
that was a deliberate grammatical faux pas for humorous effect. Okay, so this was a thing where there was a documented conspiracy between Eric Schmidt and Steve Jobs to absolutely not poach each other's talent at Apple and Google. And the companies benefited because, according to the lawsuit, they benefited because they could suppress wages because they couldn't, what the other company couldn't call you up and say, well, you're making 150, I'll pay you, 225 to jump ship. And so they both sort of agreed. And at one point, Eric Schmidt actually fired somebody or had somebody fired, right? According to these emails that I've read, who had, I forget the, help me out, Alan. What was it? It was, there was a email exchange and someone tried to hire somebody, and then Steve Jobs went ballistic and then emailed Eric Schmidt, and then Eric Schmidt had the person fired because they tried to recruit an Apple employee, and then Steve Jobs was all excited that he had his victory. And so this clearly is anti-competitive. I mean, if somebody wants to come in and hire somebody, they should have carte blanche. If companies start
Wait. Why should a company have to hire anybody at all? It's up to them whether or not they want to hire somebody or not. And what's wrong with one company telling another company, hey, I've got my employees, they're doing a great job. You've got your employees, they're doing a great job. Let's not rip off each other's employees. What the heck is wrong with that? The
Accepting
company's in
defeat.
business to make money. They're not in business to employ people.
That's
How
what-
has this all been turned around here? The company is trying to make as much money as possible. That's what companies do. If somebody wants a job, then they go out and they make themselves valuable so that the company will hire them and so that they can make money. But it's not, the company only hires somebody because they need them. And they need to use them to do a task or whatever, and they need to use them to make money. They don't hire them just because they want to hire people and give people jobs. That's not the business that they're in. They're in the business of making money.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with Craig on this one, guys.
So you think it's fine for companies to unionize, but not employees to unionize?
Oh, sure, employees can unionize. Employees don't have to work for the company. They could all decide to quit, right, and go work somewhere else. Absolutely, they could.
So price fixing's
But
price
Craig,
fixing's
no,
cool.
But no, hang on, Craig. You just said they can't go work somewhere else because the companies have all colluded to make sure that nobody else.
No. I'm just saying that there's nothing wrong with the companies entering into this agreement where I'm not going to go after your employees and you're not going to go after mine. That's not to say that an employee can't quit working for Apple and then go over and say, hey, I want to work for you, or not even quit yet. He hasn't quit. He just goes over and he talks to the other people and says, here are my qualifications. Here's my resume. I'd like to work with your company. And then that company thinks about it or whatever and decides whether or not they need them or not. And they're going to hire them if it's in their
but
best
Craig, here's
interest.
the problem. That company doesn't have a choice to say whether they want to hire them or not because they've already gotten an agreement with the other company saying they won't hire anyone.
As soon as they say
Then if they do that, then they might put themselves in a competitive disadvantage because now they can't hire this good employee. And so now some other company might snatch them up.
But
So
all
again,
of the
it's a
companies
business
working on this collusion.
decision. It's a business decision.
Craig,
that they need to make.
listen. What's the difference between this and every grocery store in your town agreeing to say we're only going to charge X amount for groceries? We're not going to go below that. and that way we can all benefit. You have a de facto monopoly. What if Kroger and Martin's in Frederick, Maryland all got together, and Walmart and everybody, and they said, we're going to charge $1 per banana instead of 25 cents. And as long as none of us deviates from that, now you've got the OPEC cartel.
If you've got enough competition, it's very difficult for them to do that. Yeah, if you've only got one or
Apparently
two
it was very
players,
easy
or
in this
three
case.
players, price fixing, can work if you have a few dominant players that really dominate the market. But if you have plenty of competition, you're not going to have that situation.
You have a very selective flavor of anti big government, and
I see both sides of this.
So do I. And
Yeah,
but what I
yeah.
find most shocking though is that Craig can go say one thing and then contradict himself 30 seconds later.
that's I don't find that shocking at all.
Myself.
I don't
In the
find that
technology
shocking.
industry, you do have a few dominant players. Those dominant players all colluded to keep the engineers' salaries lower.
Artificially.
So if we
lower.
do have only a few dominant players, then that's another issue. That's an issue that should be dealt with.
You don't think we have a few dominant players in this field?
In what field?
Technology. Internet technology.
No, I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities in Silicon Valley. There's all kinds of startups. There's all kinds of companies that people can go to work for.
Really?
And from what I
How many people are making
understand,
their own cell phones?
the demand for good engineers is high, and that if you're good, you're very much in demand, and
You
people
are,
will hire
but
you.
according to this, the top companies, the dominant players, colluded to make sure that even if you were in high demand, you couldn't leave.
Wait, wasn't it only like 2 or 3 companies?
How many dominant companies do you think there are in
I
Silicon
just
Valley?
said in Silicon Valley there's a whole bunch. I just said that.
No. No. The thing is, most of them are small startups that are struggling to get by.
I would say there's probably 100 companies there that are pretty big, pretty profitable companies. I don't think there's only 2 or 3.
Okay, after Google, Facebook, and Apple, who's next?
Well, isn't Intel out in that neck of the woods? Isn't
No, Intel
Microsoft
is
on the
Texas,
West
if I remember
Coast?
correctly.
I mean, there's a
Adobe.
bunch of big companies.
Adobe.
Adobe, oh yeah, there's a great example of somebody who's getting the high quality engineers.
They are.
Clearly, the motive here was to artificially suppress wages or salaries by limiting competition to get people. It's the same thing as people colluding to artificially increase the prices on goods. It's not capitalism at all. It's backdoor deals.
What are you talking about? When they were building this great country, the titans of industry and so on and so forth, they were doing all kinds of arrangements and so on and so forth to keep their
They were
costs
also
down.
buying government, which is something you're steadfastly opposed to, if I
Well,
remember.
but government was a lot smaller then than it is now. I mean, it was still.
How you want it? You
Well,
want
that
it
just made it
smaller, right?
cheaper for them to
I
buy.
want it even smaller than it was then, believe it or not. It was still a problem. Even back then they got...
So, Craig, you're for the system where over a third of Americans only have one true broadband internet provider, and they
He's
can
for
charge whatever
monopoly.
they have.
Well, what we need is... We've already gone into that. You don't want to bring that up again. Alan's going to be fit to be tied if we talk about that
We
again.
got 30 seconds on this topic, and then we're going to move. So go ahead, Craig.
Move on.
Right.
Craig wants a monopoly in government. Got it. Let's top it.
No,
Let's
Craig's,
just let the government
Craig
run
is
everything.
for
It'll be fine.
Craig is for small or non-existent government, almost bordering on anarchy, unless it's his pet issue that he cares about, in which case he's for massive government regulation.
I said
Just-
that we should use private companies to run the fiber to every house and every building, and I said that then private companies should provide the services over said lines. So what does that have to do with big government? Private companies can do that.
Okay.
Government just needs to get out of the way and let it happen.
We'll pretend.
Well,
that-
because why would one private company want to let any other private company in?
Well, because that's the way it should be set up. It should be
Okay,
set
so you want government to set it up that way.
Next
Next
yes.
subject.
Yes, but they don't have to.
Oh
do
my
it.
gosh! Oh my
Government
gosh!
So wait.
You got baited, Craig. You got baited.
Government does
Wait.
sometimes pass a law that makes some sense, right?
Craig got it. Craig got baited. Craig got baited.
Companies are in business to make money unless it's for Craig's pet project, and then they should be
They can
forced
make money.
to go in and
Compete.
Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution rests.
They can compete.
On Craig's terms. Okay, so next up is
I guess I'm going to have to run it. I guess that's all there is to it.
absolutely. Okay, so Google Plus, Alan, I have not thoroughly analyzed this, so that's why I pushed this until you came back. Google Plus Post gives further insight into the upcoming Google Chromebooks overhaul, also known as Google Stars. And I know that Margie and some others are waiting for your take on this. So tell us what this is about and why bookmarks are so important.
This is stuff that's been leaking out bit by bit over the past few weeks and months. And I actually did not get a good look at it today either when some more information dribbled out. But basically, we've seen for a while that Google appears to have been introducing a new something called Google Stars. And what this kind of looks like is it takes the concept of a bookmark, which is done by starring a page in Chrome right now, and massively extending it. So instead of your basic, you bookmark something, maybe you'll organize it in a folder. If you're lucky, it gets synchronized across all your devices. That's great. This takes it, or claims to take it, to another level, so that you're doing things that are more similar to what all of the bookmark sharing services are allowing for. So you could bookmark something and automatically share it with others, or put it in a folder that gets shared with others, so that you'll be able to document your bookmarks and annotate them and do something. I don't know. The descriptions of it that I've read have largely made me go, well, that's kind of vaguely interesting, I guess. But they haven't come across as totally revolutionary to me. Has anybody else looked at any of this stuff? Any of the information that's been coming out around stars? Michael? Cadeus? Anybody? Has anybody else even looked at the article while I've been yammering on here?
I have no knowledge of stars.
Yes, Cadeus, you're mute again. For
Oh,
those
God, I
of you
hate
who
this
couldn't
one.
see, Cadeus was smacking his microphone.
Yeah, I was a little upset. Watching a video here, and I mean, I don't know. It looks like it's okay. Let me see if I can find the comment that goes along with this. Give me just a second while I find this comment. Somebody else talk.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go for it, Pam.
Okay, so is this Chrome, the operating system, or Chrome, what I use?
Chrome, the browser. It looks like this
Browser.
is, or what's been released so far, is an extension for Chrome, which means that it runs on the browser and the operating system. It's a component for all of them. And it looks like it kind of leverages the existing, it kind of takes bookmarking for those and extends it into, I think one way that I saw it described as, kind of extending it into Keep-like stuff and borrowing ideas from Pinterest and Drive and a bunch of other stuff. And
That's funny because when I first installed Chrome, the browser, I also installed an extension that allowed you to bookmark certain posts on Google+, which broke as soon as they redesigned it, and I uninstalled it, and I don't know if it still exists, but that's exactly what it was. You could, and it was little stars, and you could find these posts that you wanted to bookmark to read later or whatever. But you couldn't organize them or anything, but at least you could mark them. You know, I want to read this later. But I just find it interesting that it also had stars, and I just wonder if that was the very first iteration of this.
Well, the stars concept goes back to, I think Gmail was the first one that allowed it. And I don't think that the older versions of Netscape use stars to indicate bookmarks, but I believe Chrome has been using stars for bookmarks since its beginning as well. So I think that's where it comes from.
It's weird because I'm looking at this and it really just looks like it's a folder system really that is able to be shared. Like I can share my bookmarks and me and Pam can have a shared bookmark folder and we can kind of go back and forth. I mean, I'm watching a video of somebody actually using it and that's what it looks like. It just looks like somebody's just, it looks like we're just sharing bookmarks. It's a cloud folder system for bookmarks.
Which is interesting. I mean, well, but it even takes the cloud folder system for bookmarks one step further. Because right now we have cloud sync for our bookmarks. You know, if you use Chrome on multiple devices,
Right.
you can easily set up the bookmarks to all sync with each other. You know, so that's not itself a huge deal. I think where this goes, the next step on this, part of it is the shared bookmarks, so that you're able to share it with others. And I think, you know, what a lot of people are hoping for, and maybe there's some indication of this, is that you get better organization. Because right now it's literally just you dump links in folders. I almost never use bookmarks. I've been using the internet, I've been using the web now for almost 20 years. And from the beginning, I would just organize my stuff on web pages. And this let me do things like create annotations and group them on single pages, create annotations, create forms so that I could do direct links to some things that didn't have links to them. So, I don't know, I get the idea of very rich, dynamic bookmarking, but it's not entirely clear to me how much this supports it.
So I found kind of a few more details on it. It looks like it allows you to be able to do some drag and dropping, which is kind of the same, but they have more beautiful bookmarks is what it's saying. So basically you get a rich grid. You can share, obviously, and then it'll auto-detect spam and dead links, and so then that way I guess you'll be notified. At least the way this looks like it implies you'll be notified. And then it kind of automatically, like auto-awesome, but it does it in organizing style, so I don't know how well that's working, but yeah, and then autocomplete. Looks like autocomplete for entire pages. So like I guess if you're filling out a credit card page or address page or something.
We have this comment from Margie. The Google Stars just does folders right now. It does create auto filters, but they aren't that useful yet. Tell Pam they fixed the stars, the favorites extension for Google+. So that's back and working again, if you wanted to use it. So, I don't know, I use bookmarks. I want Google to get this right so I can stop using Pinterest or Pocket. And I think those are clearly what it's aiming at, or at least some of what it's aiming at. As for Google getting it right, well, thoughts on that one, Pam?
Thoughts on them getting bookmarks right, or stars right, or wait, Chrome right, or maybe the extensions right, or
anything right,
maybe notifications right.
Why is there 17 different variations of bookmarks? What the heck?
Doubtful.
Okay, Margie actually had some more to say that I missed before. Using the Google Star bookmark extension right now on Chrome, it needs a lot of work. You can't add notes or tags yet. I don't know. I'm baffled about what this actually does give us.
It just gives us bookmarks.
Well, it sounds like it gives us folders, which is we had.
Well, wait,
before.
but as I say, I can do that now.
We can go ahead and start calling it stars because we clicked the star to even access the bookmarks anyway. So, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, is that what that's for?
Oh my God, man.
You can tell just how much people use this feature.
I mean, I go to bookmarks, but I go to the 3 little lines, that's all the way over
You
on
add a
the.
bookmark, Pam, if you go that route. Can you add a bookmark over there? I don't think you can. So that means you haven't added bookmarks in a long time, huh?
Oh, no, I bookmark all the time.
So how are you doing it without?
Yeah, but I don't access it from the star. I have to access them from the bookmark folders, right?
No,
I
how do
access
you
it from
create
the,
a new
access it
bookmark,
from the
though,
start
Pam?
page, usually.
How do you create a new bookmark? Because there's no way other than the star, right?
We've got this message
Correct.
from Sly whilst
Correct.
Pam tries to figure
Yeah.
that out. I stopped managing bookmarks with Communicator. Why bookmark when you can just search for what you want and possibly get something better? I only ever bookmark, as in a Google bookmark like Notes, things that were really hard to find.
And that's true. He's right about that. I was thinking about how many bookmarks I have in all these different folders going across the top of my browser and how often I actually click them. I think there's 2 links I'll use out of all maybe 60 bookmarks I have here. So there's
Now,
really no point.
here's an interesting question, and I'm wondering why this hasn't come up in any discussion. What if stars were integrated with Google Search? So that if you search for something and one of the results, and it acts as an amplifier for things that you've already bookmarked.
It looks like it does do that. Google search capabilities built in from autocomplete to searching entire pages to suggestions.
What does that
So
mean?
I guess that's what they're going for. I guess.
Advanced search, automatically organized, more beautiful than bookmarks, your safety in mind. Drag and drop and share your stars. So those are the features, right?
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Although none of them work, according to everybody.
Okay, well, I have WOT, W-O-T, for safety. Automatically organized. Regular bookmarks have folders that you can actually have subfolders for. So I don't know how you're going to get more organized than that. More
Well,
beautiful. I could
Yeah.
freaking care less how beautiful it is as long as I can access it.
Well,
Drag
hang on
and
a second,
drop.
Pam, let's take those one by one. So for automatically organized, part of what they're saying is that most people probably didn't put their bookmarks into folders. They probably just bookmarked it and then searched through, 100 bookmarks trying to find the one that they wanted. What they're implying by this is that Google is going to be applying some of the machine learning that they're doing and saying, hey, you're bookmarking a lot of stuff. We're going to put them automatically into this folder for you.
Awesome, your folder.
Okay, so here's the thing, okay, and maybe I'm turning a little into Craig on this kind of stuff, but it just seems that Google's trying to do stuff for us, and pretty soon we're going to be like those people in Wall-E that can't do shit for themselves, and Google's just going to feed everything to us. So we're completely incapable of thinking and creating and organizing and storing and doing anything.
Pam, what's wrong with AutoAwesome? You have a problem with Google AutoAwesome being
I have a problem with a lot of things that Google does. Telling me what I want to see in my stream. If I have everything set to more, that means I want to see every single fucking post from everybody in every single fucking circle. Okay? It doesn't mean that I want Google to choose what I'm going to see based on some stupid algorithms. Like, wait a minute, I plus something that was 4 hours old, and guess what? Now it's like pinned to the top of my stream for like 45 minutes. Bullshit. No. So I'm sorry, but I want to do my own folders.
Here's the thing, Pam, and first of all, I partly agree with you. I think what we've seen though with a lot of a lot of some of this stuff isn't that Google is saying, we're going to do it so you don't have to. They're saying, you're not doing it now, so we're going to help you do it. I think they're coming at it from the other angle. And
How to watch
that's
it in
good.
your life.
And I think that's good when they still give you the ability to do it yourself. In cases where they don't give you that ability, that's where I think they mess things up.
Ding, ding, ding.
So to use your order your stream thing, for example.
Oh, I figured out how to do it, but Google didn't allow me to. They basically,
I know
took
they
away.
put barriers in your way.
Yeah, exactly. I had
And
to
here's the thing.
figure it out.
Right. Here's the thing. I do think that Google should have made it so that if you set your volume on every circle to the max, it should give you everything. And otherwise, it should act as the filter that you're asking it to be.
Not only give me everything, but in chronological order.
Yes.
If I want to go back and see what Joe Blow posted this morning, then I can click on his picture and go to Joe Blow's profile and scroll down to this morning. I don't need them to say, oh, guess what? Joe Blow posted something popular this morning. You missed it. Here it is.
I'll agree with you on this one, Pam. My point is that if you look at it compared to how other sites are doing it, Google is doing better since they're giving you that option.
Well, they're doing better now since Facebook is completely borked beyond all. I can't even speak. It's horrible. I have never seen anything so effed up in my entire life as I did when I went to my Facebook news feed for the first time in 6 months, and I was just like, "What the holy crap is this?" So yeah, Google's better than that, and they're even better since I have a workaround, and I can see all of my posts in chronological order, and as much as more will give me. So I'm happy, sort of.
We can tell just how happy you are.
Okay, Pam.
Well,
So
it needs an extra click, right? What?
we have some comments coming in.
Oh.
First person, Cybernaut was ding, 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 because of all your little rant that you had there. And then we got this comment that actually came to me by text message. Wow, Pam, language. I'm sitting with my kids. Give us a warning. so yeah.
Okay, so
Have not watched the show before?
I think this is the first time they're getting a full watching, and apparently they got their kids watching it, so that's pretty good.
apologies to the children.
It's Dan's fault.
It's all my fault. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so next up is
So we have this one from Margie. It's really easy to use. You just click on the star in the address bar, and it asks you to pick a folder or create a new folder. It's smooth to add create, but they don't have all the features yet active. How does this differ from bookmarks today? I just don't get it. And we didn't even look at the other features because Pam and I went off on this rant.
final thoughts on this issue. None.
Can't wait to see it actually working. I predict 3 years.
Seeing no objection, I pound the gavel and move. All right, so there was this op-ed kind of bashing Mashable, which is probably a fair target. Google Plus is not going anywhere was the title. I think, Alan, you brought it to our attention. And the argument of the post was that they were taking something out of context, but I don't know if it was necessarily doing that as much as just employing a clickbait title. So why don't you address that and explain what I'm talking about?
So, and I'm now scrambling to actually remember what the Mashable article was about, but the title and sort of to some extent the content were essentially saying that had some quotes from Sergey
which made it sound like he regretted getting involved in Google Plus at all because he's not a very social guy. And I think the way it was phrased is, I'm the last person to do anything with social, or something to that extent. And if you go look at what his comments were, they essentially said that he probably shouldn't have been helping design a social system.
The
'cause he
key
doesn't
thing
know
was
anything
like
about social.
it was something like Google, Sergey admits his Google Plus mistake, implying that Google Plus was a mistake, when really what his comments were inferring was that it was. He suggested that he's not that social a person, so it was a mistake for him to be involved in that. But what they were doing was basically trolling Google Plus as a mistake, when that's not the context. Was the gist of this post. But go ahead, Alan.
No, it sounds like you summarized it better than I did.
So Dan, to put this in a little bit of perspective,
Here it comes,
I'm gonna
everybody.
share I'm going to share my screen if I can get. Darn, I can't get screen share to work.
For a reason.
Okay. Well, anyway, the only thing I was going to show on the screen share is that FriendFeed is still working. If you go to friendfeed.com, you can still log in, and it works great. It does everything it did back in the day, and I love it. It's a great service. It is probably a ghost town by all description, but it's still used, and there's still people that like it. So that's what Google Plus is. I mean, there's nobody here to speak of, but those that are here like it and use it. No, seriously. I mean, the vast majority of the people out there are not here, but those that are here, and a lot of us have been here since the beginning, find it useful for certain things, and we use it, and so they'll probably let it stay around, just like FriendFeed is still around. I think Facebook bought them, didn't they, like several years ago? I think they're owned by Facebook now. But it's still here. It still works. It still looks the same. And so that's probably what's going to happen with Google Plus 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. It's going to look the same. It's still going to be here. It's still going to work. And we can use it if we choose to.
Google
I will
Plus,
say
What's wrong
this,
with
though.
that?
I will
really,
say
what's
this.
wrong with that if you think about it?
Google Plus changes like twice a year.
All right, so Craig's trolling observation notwithstanding, I will say this. I was in a parking lot in front of Walmart in Front Royal, and I tried the new, I guess it's not new, but I thought they had gotten rid of it, and then they brought it back. It's the people who are local posting, right? Is that a recent introduction or what?
I think it's always been there. I just think that they it just hasn't really been focused on, because I used to find it a lot out.
Yeah, so I went there.
Now, are you talking about local posts near you, or
Yeah.
people sharing
It
their
used to be
local
called
posts?
Nearby.
I think it's
Yeah, it used to be nearby. That's
Yeah.
gone.
yeah, it's back. So because
Always
they
been here.
got rid of that, and it's back. So on the new iteration of Google Plus, so I was in the Walmart parking lot, right? So I got a Walmart on one side of the street, Target on the other side of the street. So I'm like, who's nearby posting? I'm not sure what the parameters are, but I did it, and I only saw like a half dozen posts a day. And I went back like 3 days, and it was like 25 posts or 20 posts, whatever. And most of them were realtors posting about houses. So if that is a true capture of everybody who's using Google Plus locally, then that's not a good sign. I'm hoping that
And you're
particular
shocked?
thing
You're
is
surprised,
wrong.
Dan? You're surprised?
I'm no, I'm not.
None of my real friends in real life are on this platform. None. Zero. Zip.
They're all on Facebook, but none
We
are
have a
here.
tough time believing you have real friends in
That's exactly right.
All right, acquaintances, okay? People that I've met face to face. Let me clarify, since you all are sticklers for details, people that I've actually met face to face, okay? Obviously, none of them are my friends, but people that I've actually met face to face. None of them are on this platform. They are all on Facebook.
So why don't you become an evangelist, Craig, for Google Plus?
I do. I mention it to them all the time. I tell them, listen, the animated GIFs are there, especially since the GIFs came out. I'm like, my God, these GIFs are awesome, and I link to them from Facebook, and they'll click and they'll go on the link and they'll look at the animated GIF, and that's about as far as they get.
I guess I have to say once again that you and I have completely different experiences.
Well, you have friends for one thing, and that makes it different. Yeah.
You know, the people that I meet up with, the people that I meet up with face to face, they don't all have Google Plus, but a large majority of them do. I had lunch last weekend with some old friends of mine from college. They were talking about their daughters who use Google Plus. One of whom uses Google Plus almost exclusively. The other one is mostly doing is mostly socializing on Instagram. Neither of them use Facebook. Neither of them would touch Facebook. So, you know, that's...
Well,
all I have to
all-
say is your
all of
experience
my-
is different than mine.
Except for a very select few people in my real life. If anyone in my real life finds me here, I block them. So my experience is yet different than yours.
well, I don't know how much they use Facebook, Alan, but I'll tell you that they come and they get their photos and they tag their photos and they share their photos because it's them in the photo, right? So they're going out of their way to get the photo. So, but they don't do that on Facebook. They don't. I mean, on Google Plus, they don't go out of the way to come to Google Plus to get the same exact photo, which it's both places, right? So I'm just saying that the vast majority that come and get the photo do so on Facebook. Now, how much they actually do stuff on Facebook, some of them post frequently, but a lot of them don't post that often at all. But I think that's true on a lot of platforms.
I mean, we've gotten grossly off topic here. I mean, the
What was the
aside from
topic?
it trying to be clickbait, what the article was looking at and trying to talk about was Sergey's role in building Google Plus, whether there was one or not, and I think the broader question is, did Google appoint the right people to oversee Google Plus? And did Google get the right people to build Google Plus when they were doing so? And I think Sergey is not the right person to be pointing fingers at, but somebody else is. And, you know.
I think Sergey was just being honest.
Sergey was being honest. And again,
And it was taken out of context for a clickbait headline. Because
well, again, the question, the broader question is: are people on Facebook versus Google Plus? I think that's not the broad question here. The broad question here is: did the right people help build this social system?
I think we know the answer.
You know, well, I think there's indication that if Sergey was involved, he probably was not one of the right contributors. But was he the one that was, you know, actively involved with it? And I'm not sure that's true.
There are problems, and we should move to a different topic ASAP. But there are problems.
Okay, so move to a different topic, Dan.
But there are problems. Like, for example, I'm looking here at Vic and Dotra. Our dear friend has been on this show 2 or 3 times, and he just posted. He's in a Mexican restaurant. He says it's my favorite Mexican restaurant, and then he has pictures of the food that he's eating, and it looks wonderful. And then it has a little link here, La Casita Mexicana. He says it's his favorite Mexican restaurant in Los Angeles. I click on the name, and it takes me to Google Maps, and there's no anything. There's no like name of the restaurant. There's no like reviews. If this were Yelp or Foursquare or something like that, it would show all these relevant things. I see 33 degrees by 58 degrees by 43.4 north, and then, I mean, it's useless. I think this is the kind of thing that caused so many people in June or July of 2011 to come on and abandon it because it was just kludgy. But this is not polished.
And
Is-
who do we blame for that?
I don't know. I mean, it was a team effort. It wasn't. I don't know. I just. God, they could if they had gotten
This-
the right people
Dan?
and they had waited a little bit longer and done it right.
Dan?
Yes, Pam.
Okay, you are right. It's kludgy. However, if you click on the longitude and latitude, it will bring up the restaurant in a little box on the left, right? And once you click on it, and it will change the latitude and longitude to the name of the restaurant.
And you think that that's acceptable?
Well, no, but you said that you can't find anything. You can. It's just, it's not polished. You have to do a couple of extra steps, and you have to know that that's what happens. And the only reason I know that is because I was playing that Pokemon game from Google Maps during, was it April Fool's?
So you're basically making my point that
Yep.
I mean, yeah,
Yep,
you
the only-
can do it
yeah.
if you if you got that MIT degree, you can figure it out. But will that have mass appeal? And there's a reason everyone left. And all the people that Craig said correctly are not on Google Plus and not using it. They all tried it. They all investigated it. They all logged in. Most of them created an account, and they have no profile picture, nothing else, because they went around. They couldn't find anybody local. It didn't make sense to them, and they left. They went public too quickly, and they did not have a good eye on what the public was expecting based on current services and the level of polish and user interface that they were expecting. It wasn't there.
So you guys realize that this is a common occurrence here with Google, right?
Common occurrence is an understatement, especially when it comes to Google Plus.
So I think that their fundamental issue, in addition to their poor marketing department, which hopefully they're getting a little bit better at, seeing as they hired a marketing person for Glass, but I digress, is that the engineers, is that the word for it? The people who are working, the coders, the ones that are working on these projects, have no concept outside of their code, language, experience. They like playing games that are complex and difficult and written in some obscure language because it's fun.
That's a really broad stereotype there, Pam.
No, I totally am stereotyping. Hey, everyone, I'm stereotyping. Send me the post. You can dog me all you want, but the results show that there is some truth to that. They don't have the polisher on staff, and that's the problem.
No, hang on. I agree with you on that, but I think the reason why isn't quite what you think it is. It's not that they're code obsessed to doing something cool. It's that they have a concept and they're really excited about that concept, and they get that concept to 95%.
Yeah, they just don't think it all the way through.
And they don't think it all the way through because at 95% it starts getting boring. And that's the problem.
That's true.
Talk about stereotype. So it's okay for me to do it, but
No.
I guess you are.
I didn't actually criticize you for stereotyping. Actually, I criticized you for stereotyping something different.
Here's a
Not that
question
you were
on this issue.
stereotyping.
Here's a question. Does Google have too high a standard when they hire, which results in products that are not appealing to the mainstream?
No. So I've read quite a few articles about companies like Google and Microsoft and Motorola and Research in Motion and stuff like that. And the truth is that there really is a personality type that is suited for software development, and that does explain some of these. They have, extreme attention to detail and things like that, and they can think and do all this stuff. But Alan's right. Once the problems of the program are solved, they get bored. So the polish never happens. One of the reasons why Windows and some of these other big programs take forever to come out is that polish piece takes a lot of time because it's basically very boring. It's just not something that people get excited about. So they kind of, they save the hard stuff for last, and then it just doesn't, it doesn't happen.
Final thoughts on this?
I think that, well, and Google's thing is, does the project work? Does it work? Well, let's just release it and let people give their feedback, and then we can polish it. I mean, that just seems to be, that's what they do, right? We've seen it over and over again.
I agree with you, Pam. The problem is they never actually get to the polishing even then.
Yeah.
The project escapes out into the semi-public, and nothing, and then it sits there for a while, and either they kill it and replace it with something else, or they put new features in, but
So
they never get to the polish
Are
stage.
you saying Google Plus has ADHD? Shiny object syndrome, always off to the next exciting thing?
Yes.
And
Yes, and I mentioned this in my post about stories. That's a problem with Google Plus, is that they release a feature, whether that's communities, whether that's the photo editor, whether that's events, and they let it sit there. Events has gotten, how many changes has Events gotten since it was released 2 years ago? Michael.
Why you gotta go there?
Changes usually, I would think after the main thing rolls out, changes are done in the background. Once something goes out, they're usually fixing bugs in the background.
I didn't say fixing bugs. I said fixing. I said fixing systems. Events is horribly flawed.
But on the back end,
No, on the
Events is
front end.
flawed on both ends.
why is it flawed on the front end?
Have you not tried to use it? Okay, never mind. We won't go down this road.
Yeah, I've used events. I use it all the time.
I see people try to. Every time I see a person try to create an event for the first time, they get it completely wrong. On the second time, they only get it partly wrong, and they almost never get to the third time because the experience with it has been so bad. It's difficult to use. It's non-intuitive. It's got way too many controls. It doesn't fit the paradigm of how the rest of Google Plus works.
Or anything.
And the only change I've ever seen to it is they've added new themes.
And the Hangout button. Don't forget the little Hangout. Now you can add Hangout. So
Well, that's
Okay.
right. And that
Final thoughts
doesn't
on
even
this?
work correctly.
Okay, so next up is Google released its diversity numbers, which were not flattering. They were criticized for lack of diversity in their, especially their higher-paying technical staff, and so they released some numbers, and it showed it was largely what the hell is going on there? The noise there.
hey, just continue on. Continue on, Dan.
Okay, so anyway, they released the numbers. It was not flattering at all. There was a lack of females. There was a lack of African Americans. There was a lack of minorities. It was mainly white males, guys like me. So they came out with this and they said it's a problem, and that one of the problems they have is a lack of these groups who pursue these degrees that they're trying to go
A
for.
lack of candidates for the jobs.
Exactly. So I posted a thing earlier that was a controversial post. It got a lot of traction, a lot of interaction, and I found that it was a male-female analysis, right? It didn't go into African Americans or Asians or Latinos, but as far as the male-female argument, it showed that they showed a chart of the top 10 highest paying degrees and the the bottom 10 lowest paying degrees, and they showed that females were pursuing by a dramatic margin, in some cases like 99% female, the bottom, and that males were pursuing the highest paying degrees. Now that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is the reason for that when women and or minorities enter the workplace in this sort of environment, that they don't feel welcome because it's sort of a boys club. So it's a complicated issue here. And I applaud Google for releasing the numbers, which were not in any way flattering at all. I mean, they were not a good thing. But there was a great discussion with the head of the senior vice president in charge of their personnel. It's called the SVP of people operations or something like that. And it was on PBS, and it was a really intelligent conversation. They had folks who had a diverse viewpoint on this whole thing. So what are your thoughts? This is obviously not a short-term problem. This is a long-term problem because it's in the financial interest of business to have a wider candidate pool from which to choose the best candidates. If only white males are pursuing these degrees, then you have X amount of candidates from which to choose to make your products. In a situation where in technology, to a growing extent, we're seeing emerging countries, people who don't look anything like us or speak our same language, being the new place where our businesses will grow. So it would be to everyone's benefit if more black folks, Latino folks, women would pursue these degrees, more foreign speaking, etc., so that we could choose amongst this talent pool to get the best and brightest and appeal more broadly to, continents like Africa and Asia, which are the next growth spurts here. So it's a bad situation for everyone involved. Is it a case where there's blatant discrimination, or is it a case where it's a boys' club and women are just not interested in going into that situation? Is it a case where, for whatever reason, this particular degree is more appealing to males over females, which I don't understand? What's going on here? This is not a simple, easily digested topic at all. This is a complex issue. But let me start with Cadeas and Pam and Michael, and tell me, what do you think about this? Because Cadeas, you're absolutely not stereotypical.
God.
What do you think about this? Because this is a topic.
What would it hurt for you to give your opinion about something, Cadeas? Come on.
I like to dance away from these topics. Honestly, I feel that we're focusing, and it's. I hate to sound like Craig. I feel like we're focusing.
Let me ask the question this way, Cadeas. I don't know if you noticed, but you are in fact a black dude. I don't know if you saw a mirror today, and you're a very successful, popular, and wonderful technologist guy, entrepreneur type, right? How can we get more guys who look like you? And then to Pam, how can we get more women who look like you to pursue these technological careers? And is there anything you saw amongst your kin as you grew up that caused them to not be interested in this? Because let's face it, this is a smart move. If you pursue these academic careers, there's big money to be made for you as an employee or as an entrepreneur. So why is it so difficult to get more? What can we do to get more Cadeases out there?
Well, see, I grew up in a utopia, so to speak. So, my opinion tends to be slanted in comparison to everybody else, and I don't think that targeting people based upon their color would change anything. So, to me, I got interested in technology not because another black person talked to me about getting interested in technology. Like, I got interested in it because I was interested. So I don't know. I grew up in a different part of the country, and so I don't really see the difference in. Everybody has their own interests, and apparently not everybody is interested in technology in this case. I don't like separating the numbers like this, though. I really don't. I don't like we got 60% white, 34% Asian, 2% Hispanic, and 1%. I don't like separating that because we're all Americans, and I don't see why we have to draw all these different lines. But again, my opinion is totally different from everybody else's. I grew up in a different time and in a different part of the country than everybody else. So.
I agree, and understand. We're not talking about quotas here. We're talking
not
about
necessarily quotas, but I mean
we're not talking about that. We're not saying like enforce things. We're saying what can we do to because we all agree that the more diverse the candidate pool is, the better off the companies are at getting the best candidates. I mean, if you have a candidate pool of 100 people, then you can choose the best. If you have 20 jobs, you're going to get the best 20 out of 100. If you have a candidate pool of 1,000 people and you have 20 jobs, you're going to get a better mix. And also,
but my question is this: why is it that we have to even? Because to me, this shouldn't be a topic. To me, because why? And when I say topic, I'm not talking about for the show. I mean just period in America. Like, why are we cutting this where we see who's
because
coming from
Google bragged because in this interview, Google bragged that they hired 50% of all of the PhD candidates who were African American 1 year. And there were 2 in the whole country as far as like computer science degrees. There were 2 PhDs who got a PhD who were African American in their computer programming thing. There were 2 human beings in the whole country who got a PhD who were black, right? And Google was bragging. I assume it was joking inside, like they were proud. We got landed one. There's only 2. We got one. That's a problem.
And Microsoft got the other.
Microsoft got the other. So that is a problem because it's not like I'm trying to say we need quotas. I'm not for quotas. I'm not for busing, all that stuff. What I'm saying is something that these companies could do to create a culture or encourage these groups that are not participating in this movement to further technology and better themselves because they make a lot of money when they do it. Why aren't they getting involved? Alan Furstenberg.
I get Cadeas's point, and on some level, I agree with it. I think where I've kind of got issues is looking at it from a different point of view. You say, we're all Americans, and that's a valid point. But I think even as Americans, we've got a lot of different perspectives on a lot of different things. So if you go, did you grow up in Kansas City? I don't remember exactly.
I grew up in Kansas City.
Okay. The perspectives that you bring to anything are shaped in some way by you growing up in Kansas City. The perspectives that I bring are shaped by me growing up in New York. Now, do we have the same perspective on things? Almost certainly not. But I think if you and I worked on a team working on something, we'd bring our different perspectives together and create something that is different and better than what either of us could do on our own. So I think something like this, not saying we need we need these different groups. This is a very, very rough, crude way of saying here is all of the different perspectives that we have coming into this, and we don't have as many as we would like.
But see, here's the thing. So I guess, and I like how you painted that because that's perfect. I grew up in Kansas City. Dan grew up in Virginia or wherever. Everybody's grown up in different areas, and so the perspective that everybody's going to have is based upon where they grew up, not necessarily their race. And so that's why if this was broke up and said we had 60% New Yorkers, 30%, I could understand. I could deal with that a little bit better, only because the cultures are different on each different areas of the country. So I could deal with that a little bit better than saying races that don't necessarily matter anymore. And so this is
an interesting point. I look at this as saying these are metrics that are relatively well understood. We've got historical data on it. We've got historical understanding of race as an aspect of American perspectives and culture. And it's not perfect by any means, but it's something that we understand in a broader perspective. We have a very poor understanding of regional differences, and mostly because we've ignored them, and mostly because they're so broken up by state lines. And that's not even entirely accurate. So, you know, I look at this not as saying, you know, we need these specific categories. It's more as one very rough, very crude measure of seeing just how well Google is tapping into the diversity that America is.
And in the same way, hang on one second, Pam. In the same way that if I was trying to create an app that would appeal to Mac users, it would make sense to get Craig's opinion on it, right? So if you're trying to create a product with a broad appeal, it makes sense if you can have a broad crew developing it, because the whole.
But broad as in location is how I look at it, not broad as in because I could be black in New York or black in California or black in Kansas City, and all three of those are going to have different perspectives. So it has, to me, the color has nothing to do with or the race. Which I know you're not saying that.
Though, Cadeas, is that in some ways location isn't a very accurate description either. You've got a very good chance that New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco will all behave more or less with the same attitude than Kansas City.
That's true.
Okay.
But that's what I mean. I think it's more based upon region and stuff, not race.
Well, no, I'm not. I just pulled two cities from two different codes.
I know.
Pam
I
Adger.
think it's entirely regional.
Pam Adger, what are your thoughts?
My dad has a master's degree in computer science, and he knows, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 different computer languages. He was a systems architect, and he was the main software developer for NCR for 15 years. And he begged me to go into this field way back in the 80s. And you know, the truth is that my math skills weren't there. It wasn't something that I excelled in, and I excelled in science, and so I went into science, which is also, according to a lot of reports, male-dominated. I don't know if the reason why females, and you know, I'm not even going to go into other races because I'm a white female and I should stick to what I know. I don't know if the reason why females don't go into this field has anything to do with it being a male-dominated field so much as, you know, it's just not something they're necessarily interested in the numbers that men are, and they're choosing not to go into these fields. So it's kind of, in my opinion, kind of silly for everyone to hold Google's feet to the fire when, you know, they're even taking steps to create diversity where they have no obligation to do that.
And it's important, Pam, it's important to note, and I posted it, but I don't have a link to the post handy, but if you look on my stream, it's currently May 30th, 2014, if you're watching this later. If you go down a couple, I have a post to the PBS interview with the Google guy. It's really good. And Alan made a couple of references that make me think he's seen the same thing. But we're not talking about, nobody's talking about a government regulation or busing people or forcing quotas. It's more about an effort, a 5, 6, 7 year effort to try to figure out why we can't get more women interested in these careers and more African Americans and more Native Americans and more Asians, etc. And try to make them cool, right? And sort of like a Michelle Obama trying to get kids to eat vegetables. It's not forcing anything on anybody. It's saying, hey, this is cool, here's why, and trying to make it cool to do those things. And that's the emphasis here. And nobody was like bashing Google, because Google is symptomatic of the entire Silicon Valley. They were just the first to say, this is the deal, here are the numbers.
What was the name of that valley again, Dan?
Silicon Valley? As
That's
opposed to
what I thought you said.
as opposed to the only better one, which is the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia,
Well,
which you should visit.
I happen, just because this is Google Plus, and the truth is there are an awful lot of software developers who use Google Plus. I mean, definitely way more than I would ever encounter on the streets. And I have to tell you that I happen to have quite a few people in my circles who are females and who are software developers. So, they do exist. They're either not applying for jobs at Google or
hang on a second, Pam. Here's actually something that I saw. Here's something that I saw a lot of people saying in regard to this. Is they're saying, and this was kind of my reaction as well. Was I know a lot of female technical people at Google. These numbers surprised me, and then I'm kind of like, well, I thought Google was doing really well. What is that actually saying about the rest of the industry? If I thought Google was doing better than everyone else, and the numbers are saying Google is only doing so-so, what is that saying? It's not saying that, it's not Google saying they're doing a bad job when it comes to gender. It's Google saying we feel we should be doing better.
And I have to tell you, I don't recollect. I don't think there are any software developers in any of my circles who are unemployed. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm sure it does, but it's these jobs are in demand, and they're importing people from outside of the United States to take jobs.
Well, I know quite a number of software developers that are unemployed, several of whom are female. It's not always that straightforward, and I wish it was, but that's also not all that unusual per se. I really don't want to go into the H-1B visa issue right now at all.
Yeah, the bottom line is this: as someone, I've employed hundreds and hundreds of people, and when I when I put an ad out for certain jobs, it could be my area because it's a pretty white area, but I typically get white candidates. I think we've had one single African American apply for a graphic designer job, and I hired him, and he worked with us for a while and then ended up quitting. But that's the only, so it's the only one I ever applied, and I thought it was kind of cool. I was like, finally somebody applied, to add some, because we have some black readers and stuff, and I was like, it'd be kind of cool to have a different viewpoint here. We have women and stuff. I've never had an Asian apply that I know of. I don't think we have many Native Americans here, but I'm just, I don't know. I just think I applaud Google. I don't want quotas. I don't want regulations, forcing stuff, because it has to be an open system where you look at the candidates and you say, who's the best qualified to do the work? And I'm for that. And I think that's what Cadeas was getting at. At the same time, I think if Google which they're saying they're doing, can do things to try to get kids when they're younger excited about coding. And I think there's been some initiatives we've spoken about in the show about, it's cool to code type stuff to get kids excited about this and exploring it. I think that's fantastic. And if we can get a bigger, coding gene pool, if you will, from which to choose, then everybody benefits because the consumers are far more diverse than the producers of the products. And that's not a good thing. If
I think to me that's kind of the underlying issue as well. It's let's make sure we've got a nice diverse base to pull from of people interested to pull from, and if we've got that diverse base, then we'll automatically have that diversity in the employment itself. And the question is, why don't we have that diverse base?
We've got
a bunch of comments.
Go ahead. And Alan, let me say this: you're correct. If we fix the getting everybody interested in coding equally, and because no company is stupid enough to this is not 1935. No company is going to turn down an excellent employee prospect because of his race or religion or he's gay.
No.
In general,
I want to correct you there for a moment. You want to say something, Cadeus, if your mic works?
No, go ahead.
You'll remember that one of the things that the personnel manager did identify as a problem was that there was this self-selection bias. There was this bias towards selecting people who you have more in common with.
That's a legitimate. That's a legitimate thing. I mean, that's a legitimate potential thing, I guess.
Right, and maybe Google is better at addressing this than others, but he identified it as a possible issue still. And this is kind of what Margie gets to when she says institutional racism. It happens in big businesses. Older Black Americans know this, and so forth. Some other comments that we've got from Charles.
Institutional racism doesn't just happen in the workplace. It also happens in apartments. It also happens in grocery stores. When I worked in, department stores. When I worked in loss prevention, we were actually instructed to, profile basically, law enforcement profiles. The TSA profiles. So it isn't just in big business. But you're right, minorities tend to do that to themselves as well. That's why do you think there's a Chinatown and a Japantown and a Koreatown and a little India and little Italy? They tend to.
There is a self-selection bias.
Yeah.
It's not so much institutional racism, it's more institutional discrimination is the better term, because it's not just based on race. It could be based on gender, ethnicity, or whatever.
Exactly.
And frankly, if I went to a China, I got some game with a wok, right? I'm a pretty good cook. If I went to a Chinatown restaurant and applied for a job, and then like two Chinese guys applied at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised at all if one of the Chinese guys got the gig, because he or she was more they were more comfortable with him because he spoke the same language. You know what I mean? I've barriers culturally and language wise, so it's a universal thing that we should just be cognizant of and try to deal with. Go ahead, Alan. You got more comments?
And I think that's more the point. It's that we should be cognizant of it and address it as best we can, understanding that this is one of the potential problems. Moving on to other comments. From Charles Ellington, one does not need top-notch math skills to be a successful developer. I don't think that's what Pam was trying to say. I think it was, even broadly speaking, trying to shoehorn somebody into a career just because there's this attitude of we need more X in career Y. That's a mistake.
Who made this? Charles Ellington. Charles, we had a computer at home in the early 80s because my dad worked where he worked, and I learned how to do what do you call it, document editing and stuff on WordStar, and I learned a lot of DOS-based stuff. And he tried to show me some things. I was just more interested in science. It was just something I wasn't interested in, getting into the nitty-gritty. And the fact that, it dealt with numbers instead of bodies and systems, biological systems and things like that, it just wasn't my thing. So I don't want you to think that it was just math. I mean, you can't be really a scientist without understanding math either. So it wasn't just that. It was just something that I found incredibly boring.
Right.
Really, a quick aside on that, IBM had a big presence in Manassas, Virginia, and they were hiring all kinds of people, and they ran out of computer science degrees. So rather than go with math majors, they went with foreign language majors. Like these kids who were 20 years old and they were a major in French with a minor in Italian. It's basically the same kind of thing. You're learning a language, right? Coding is just like learning French or Italian. It's a very logical, unlike the English language, which is insane, and there are no rules. If you don't believe me, write this sentence down. There are 3 twos in the English language. I'm referring to TWO, TOO, and TO. Write this sentence down. There are 3 twos in the English language. It's impossible. So you find the foreign language guys, and they got the same skill set that could be a coder. Go ahead, Alan.
Again, I kind of want to make sure that the broad point here is made that we're not saying we should be we should be forcing people into a career that they don't like. What we do need to address, however, is raising the question, why aren't we seeing more, pick your category, more blacks, more women, more Latinos, more whatever, going into, again, pick your field. And one of the possibilities, or one of the potential problems about why we're not seeing more of these groups in software development is because of the institutional problems, that the higher up people that are saying, we don't want people like that, to work with us, and people get discouraged for that.
Or it could be 50 years of public education that isn't worth a darn. That could be part of it too.
Why aren't you still talking on your phone, Craig?
I think what we're advocating here is not any kind of government mandate or quota system or anything like that. What we're advocating is, why aren't these kids of various ethnic or religious whatever groups, why aren't they thinking this is cool? And is there something that companies like Google and Apple could do to intervene at a young age to do basically what we're advocating here is a PR campaign to say coding is cool, and it's very it can give you a really good affluent lifestyle.
PR campaigns.
Huh?
And we know Google is great at PR campaigns.
Yeah, right.
But it's broader. It's broader than just a PR campaign, though, Dan. Is there a systemic problem from top to bottom? And I don't have an answer to that.
And that's what I was going to say. To answer the question, there is no one easy, simple solution because the country is so big. There are millions of different variables depending on where you're coming from in the country, and so there's no right or wrong answer, and there's no real way to solve this problem. You can't solve it on a massive scale.
You're not going to solve it, but you can make inroads, right? It just will be neat if when I've got an ad running now in Northern Virginia for sales reps. I think every single person has been a white person. I have no idea why. It's just coincidental. I don't care what color they are, or what religion they are, if they're gay or straight. If they can sell, I'm going to hire them. And I just think it would be neat if the talent pool available for these jobs that are so high paying and prestigious were greater, because that would result in products that would appeal to a more diverse audience. And that's where the growth is, right, Craig? I mean,
the bottom line is that any company that is not hiring a qualified individual, for you name the reason, they're shooting themselves in the foot. It's a competitive environment out there. It's very difficult to get anybody that wants to work anymore. And so if you've got somebody that comes to you and they actually want to work and you don't hire them, I mean, that's just stupid. Simple as that. I mean, there are darn few people out there that actually want to work. And if you have somebody that answers your ad and says they actually want to do a job, I don't care who they are, you better hire them. It's as simple as that.
Oh yeah, if Drew Paul can sell, I would hire, on the spot. I don't care. Can you make me
absolutely.
money? I don't care.
Absolutely.
And not to diminish the argument to that.
And
But
you're going to absolutely shoot yourself in the foot if you do otherwise.
yeah, a business person wants to make money. That's the bottom line. And I don't care. It's just anyway. So I think it's an interesting topic, and I had actually posted on it. I forgot to add it. I don't know who added it, but I appreciate you adding it because I think it's something that it's just interesting to me. Why this situation exists, I'm not really sure. Okay, so our last Google topic before we get to other news is Google may be buying Dropcam to bolster smart home efforts. So we remember Google bought Nest, which is a manufacturer of very high-end, very smart, and awesome thermostats. And Alan is either dismissive or frozen. I think the latter.
He
But-
is frozen. I'm actually talking to him about it now.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's-
okay. But I should definitely share his
Is he on a
just to
Chromebook?
troll
I already
him.
have it. I'm doing that right now, Dan.
Does anybody
See, it
know?
won't let me
is he on
click
a
his
Chromebook?
thumbnail.
He's on
Okay,
an
he's dropped
iPhone.
out.
Oh yes, he said yes. He is on a Chromebook.
All right,
He's
so
on
who
an
knows
iPhone.
about Nest and Dropcam and all that stuff? I've never
love
used it.
Nest. I don't know about Dropcam, but I love Nest, and I swear by it. And when I walk in my front door, straight ahead is the Nest right there, and I wouldn't mind an advertisement popping up right there as I walk past. It does nothing anyway. So
See,
if they
this
say,
is why
hey,
you were
there's a
against
new-
our previous topic because you're a rich black guy.
Oh, God.
See,
Anybody that's worried about privacy,
you're a Romney supporter, 1%er, right, Cadeas?
You don't want me to answer that question.
Come clean.
We'll have a discussion off
anybody
the
that's
I'm going to get Craig
Despite-
all riled up.
Despite
Anybody
your
that's
Hawaiian
concerned
garb,
anybody that's concerned with privacy is going to go ballistic over this Dropcam thing. I mean, my gosh, Google's already got our email. Now they're going to be, using the Dropcams to
all right.
figure out God knows what.
Cadeas, and one question I'm trying to figure out, what is Google's mission here? Because they paid a pretty penny for Nest, and now this is a rumor, right? We have no idea if this has any accuracy at all. But Cadeas and then Michael, because I know you guys are techies, but tell me, what do you think? Does it make sense for them to buy Dropcam? And what game are they playing? What's going on here? Can you? Because I really don't understand it. Can you enlighten me, please?
As far as purchasing Nest, I honestly just think they're trying to move more into home automation, and I would love to see them take Google Now and integrate this with Nest and everything else. Just the whole entire ecosystem, it would be perfect once it brings in home automation. So Google is positioning themselves better than Apple, Craig. Google is positioning themselves to be able to basically know everything and be able to get all your life running, which making a joke with Pam about auto-awesoming your life. It's pretty much what they're trying to do, and just making everything just make it work easy, and that's what I think. As far as the advertisements on it, like I said, coming in the front door, as soon as I open my door, the Nest is right there on the wall. It's not even lit up. So for it to know when I walk, usually when you walk close enough to it, it'll light up. So if I was coming in the door and I'm walking past it and it lights up and say, hey, something's new is out, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to make me want to rip it off the wall. I'll just keep walking if I'm not interested. So I mean, I don't see a problem with the little advertising. Now, if it starts making noises and all this extra stuff and freaking videos popping up, that's different. But just to pop a little ad up when it's not doing anything anyway, doesn't bother me one bit. That's more ad revenue for Google. Maybe they can do your plus post ads in there, Dan, and then you really like it. But yeah, so that's my opinion on the Nest thing. I don't know what Dropcam is.
I think on the Nest part, if they do the ads but make it significantly cheaper than what it currently is, that would be more, beneficial for me. As far as the Google Now thing, I think that's where it is going. Getting into that home automation kind of thing to give Google Now more relevance than it already has, which, I mean, it's ridiculous how much, Google Now, ties into your everyday life. But I mean, the Nest thing, now the drop cam thing, I think it could be done to the fact where the next Nest can be like this home security system, almost like a system all in one sort of kind of thing. I don't want to doom it already and call it like the Q replacement or something, but I mean like like this one device that does multiple things, and they can do the little drop cam with the. I think they're using it more on the camera, but also the internet connectivity that system used was, I mean, pretty significant, because I mean a lot of people use it, and you can access your home from other places on the internet. So I mean, I think that's what they got that system for. They probably can incorporate video in there somewhere, but I think it's more that home central unit that they're trying to get into.
Two thoughts I have on this one. The first is, I mean, when I got back in, you guys were talking about, I assume, the rumor that was floating around about advertising on your Nest showing up eventually. Was that what I walked in on? You got to remember.
Yeah, we kind of lumped them all together. Yeah.
Part of that was because somebody noticed in an SEC filing that Google made a passing reference to the fact that they may put advertising on just about anything. And from that they said, oh, Google is going to put advertising on just about everything. And I think that's a misunderstanding of why Google had to include it in their SEC filing. It basically boiled down to, if Google didn't do that, and at some future point they did, a stockholder would sue them for not having disclosed it earlier on. So basically they were just saying, yeah, anything we do now we may put advertising on. I wouldn't worry about that even vaguely. That's one.
I mean, even if it was there, it's not hurting anything. I have a Nest. It's not hurting anything to see a little, hey, the Nexus Q is rebuilt. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I keep walking if I'm not interested. Like, it's not like it's making noise and throwing stuff at me.
What if it was making noise and throwing stuff at you?
Now we have a problem. If Dan's plus post ads was coming up, that's a different thing than just me walking in the door and it lights up and I'll keep walking like it does. It does that now. I walk past it, it goes, oh, you're 22 degrees Celsius in the house. I keep walking. So if it showed a little advertisement, it wouldn't be a big deal. Pam, don't laugh at my Celsius.
I'm still pissed about the plus post ads thing.
On the second point about home automation, I think that's interesting only in the sense that it now sounds like you can't read a rumor without seeing something along the lines of Apple due to announce home automation at WWDC, or this is the year of Google's home automation, despite the fact that they've been promising it for 3 years. I don't know why everyone suddenly thought this is going to be the year of home automation as well as the year of wearables, but I think we're
all wearables.
I think the pundits are, just obsessing about what needs to come next, because what came last just sucked so badly.
I think the home's going to be the next battle. I think this year is all wearables.
So you think home automation won't be for a couple more years yet?
Yeah, because I mean they're going to lump in there that cable, element into it, and that cable box and that unified. I mean, I think they're going to lump all that into it. But I think that's going to be like the next battle. I think wearables going to wear out first.
But I mean, we're already seeing that battle with the Xbox whatever and the PS9.
Xbox is failing. That's not even a battle no more. It's like freaking 300. They're going in the freaking valley right now.
I understand Nest because the bottom line is if you can tell consumers we can save you money with technology, you buy this product and it will cost less to operate this. Your heating and air system, if you get this Nest thermostat, that's an easy sell. I don't understand the drop cam aspect of it. That's what is confusing to me. I don't see how that fits in. I mean, a smart refrigerator, smart thermostat, a smart car, lights that know when you walk in the room.
Some of us have security systems It's in California for sure. The home camera, security camera business is quite hot, and this Dropcam company seems to work with that kind of thing. It's a cloud video monitoring company, so to me it kind of does fit with the Nest and some of the other stuff,
Yeah.
I just don't know how they're going to monetize it. When someone's breaking into your house, you don't really want to see an ad for,
Call 911 after this. You
Pam,
can skip this ad in 5 seconds.
Schlag locks.
you monetize it in two different. There are a number of ways that you can monetize this sort of thing. The first is you sell the home security monitoring service. So you sell the high def storage for the camera, you sell the networking, you sell the cloud aspect of it, and you give away the hardware. The other thing you do is you upsell additional services that you can do with these systems. So you sell this as a babysitter monitoring service, not just a home security service. So you sell the teddy bear cam. So you sell all of this other stuff that integrates with it, or more importantly, you license to other people who will do it the ability to integrate with your network. So either your Google or your Apple, you create the home network and you license the connection to that network to others. So those are the places where you make your money.
Yeah.
Also, I think the other Dropcam piece where they would benefit from, if average person go buy a video camera, now they have to have the application to capture the video, and then they got a port for the application so it can go on the external network from the home network. So Dropcam has done this in a fairly easy way in setting one up and getting it online. So it could benefit from that part as far as monitoring and give you more real-time monitoring.
I think you've got a point there. One of the things that I noticed on the list of I/O sessions is there is a session on programming your Nest, and by programming your Nest they mean application programming for the Nest platform. So they're hitting at developers and encouraging them to do things with Nest. I can easily see that for a platform like Dropcam as well. Can you picture what using Dropcam technology you could do with your studio, Dan? Or Craig? Because I can.
Multiple views.
Multiple views, cameras automatically switching. You can get rid of your cameramen and control them all yourself.
We can start Google Plus week on time?
Or from a remote producer.
I don't think
that'll ever happen.
I don't think people want to see me in my boxer shorts drinking a cup of coffee first thing in the morning in my studio on my Dropcam 24/7 the Dan cam. I don't know how much appeal there would be for that. I imagine zero.
I don't know, Pam. What do you think? Would you be all over that?
No.
I don't know, Dan.
And not because Dan isn't hot and all.
Yeah, what has changed? You were pretty clear on that one.
I've just been dismissed by Pam.
Yeah, no, Dan's hot and all, but yeah, no.
It's just too early in the morning for you? Is that it?
All right, somebody had a comment up?
Cadeas is denying it. But Dan, you don't see the advantage to this, yet you were the one who was talking about having a camera on top of every television set so that you could do video calls to other family members.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just trying to figure out the context of this story was they were relating it to the purchase of Nest, right? And so I was trying to think, like, how does Dropcam, which is sort of a voyeuristic tool, versus a smart thermostat, how is in the whole context of, a refrigerator that, or you know, appliances that would react, you know, lights that would come on when you come in the room. How is Dropcam integrated into that? That was what was curious to me, because in the context of this article, which is basically, we're repeating a rumor here, so we have no idea if this is accurate. That was my curiosity. I was like, what does Dropcam have to do with Nest? They're totally opposite products.
But they're not totally opposite products. In terms of home security, they're the exact same product.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I agree there.
I mean, because one of the things, you know, what ADT does, for example, what they advertise isn't just, you know, we monitor your house for break-ins, but we also monitor it for fire. Okay, so now you've got your Nest system, which does fire detection. Maybe your Nest system can also detect breaking glass, because that's one of the things you see a lot of in security systems. Isn't just, you know, putting tape on windows anymore. It's detecting breaking glass. Tie that into a camera, which can now immediately go on and start recording when something strange is happening, and your Nest sensors of any sort will know when something strange is happening.
And it can
You'll get a live video stream so you can see what's going on. So I can see how this all ties together in terms of security. Go ahead, Cadeas or Mike.
I want to say one of the cell phone carriers is, I can't remember which one, but one of the cell phone carriers is actually designing something to this degree. Or actually, I think a few of them. Verizon has something like this. I think a few of them actually have it. I think
they're all moving into this space.
Yeah, and it doesn't. I still feel that Nest, once it gets everything, Nest, Google, once they get all the different pieces, it's going to function a lot better than this. But I have seen some of these things where you're able to do a lot of the stuff that's like glass break sensors and the whole 9 yards of what you're talking about. Like, all this is pretty much here, which Cybernaut kind of said in his comment here, is that we're kind of far behind with all this stuff. It's been around since 2006. So I mean, it's definitely something that we're moving towards. I just think that everybody has it all wrong in the way it's all set up and put together, and I think if Google does everything and do it correctly, I think they're in a better position than any other companies in the world to do something like this. As long as they make all the right choices.
The last component that I'm really surprised I see very few people actually working on or working towards, the last component is the lock. You know, we're still using, I mean, talk about, you know, being behind. Most house locks are ancient. Why haven't we seen a lot of effort being put into opening my door the same way I unlock my car?
There's two companies. Lockatron has been working on that since 2010, and I've been kind of talking to them back and forth over the years to see kind of where they are. It's just kind of dragging along, but they've been working on that. But then one of the, I think maybe Cox or one of the carriers or whatever, they actually have a lock solution that does work, and I actually like the way theirs works. It's one of the only things I like about theirs. I can't remember which one it is though.
I thought I'd seen Verizon advertising it, but I may be wrong on that one.
Yeah, one of the companies, but they have a lock solution that works well, and it works from your phone, and you can program codes in it. And
yeah.
And what happens when the power goes out?
But go ahead, Pam. Sorry.
A 5-year battery is inside. 5-year battery inside.
Inside what?
Inside the lock. So you only have to replace it every 5 years.
That right there is why we won't be changing locks anytime soon. They've changed the way they do locks from the singular little ridge that, you know, judges if this is your key or not, to the all four sides of the key. I mean, I've seen that done at like different, you know, more modern places, but I mean, I don't think there's going to be a electronic solution anytime soon till when it gets crazily cheap to do this on a nationwide scale, or there is a need for more security.
Again, it's not so much about security though. Now it's home automation. Nobody's focusing on security because it's not every day you get broken into. But it's if you can sell the home automation side of these products, then it would make it more useful for people to buy, even if it's useless in the end.
We've got this comment from Cyan. I think it's a good one. I like Google, but I don't want them controlling my house. and I understand that on some level. I think for me, a lot of it boils down to I want all of this stuff to work on some level, even if my internet goes out. So if my internet goes out, I still want my fire detector to work.
So Google
So-
is
So what you're asking for, Alan, then you're asking for a wireless communication service provider to step in because they have probably a more stable connection. I mean, what's the likelihood of all
Well,
three?
they do, except
Yeah.
for during a natural disaster, which is when you would need your system to work,
Right.
right?
That's
I
true.
am-
That's true.
I'm
That's
actually-
true.
So guess what? The key works, right? That's why the door
Right.
locks are,
That's true. That's definitely
Right. I'm actually not asking for that. What I'm asking for is a better way to think about how we deal with cloud services, so that I've got my home controller, I've got my home network that can operate fundamentally independently of the cloud. Now, I'll have advanced services if the cloud is working, but if not, I still want a basic functionality in my house.
So then they should all
smoke
mesh.
detector to work.
You should have a little mesh network that communicates with your cellular or whatever device
I
you
don't
want.
even need a mesh network. I need my Wi-Fi.
You know what? That's dangerous though. Guess what? I mean, people do some crazy things to their Wi-Fi, but I mean, once I crack your Wi-Fi and get your Wi-Fi, I own your house now. And I
That's
can
why
do
I
that
said mesh.
outside. I don't even have to be in your house.
Michael. I gotta ask you real quick. Is that a drumstick or a
We've had this conversation, Dan.
I can't remember. Is it a band leader baton or a drumstick? What is it?
Man, come on, man. Oh God, we having a real conversation.
No, I
Tell him what kind of stick that is, Michael.
Yeah, but he's obviously bored, so...
what is it? I mean, no. Next is what kind of shirt are you wearing, Kadeas? But go ahead, Michael.
I was pointing out the
No, the stick. What is it? Is it a? Just real quick. What is it?
blinds. Oh my gosh, we've talked about this.
It's what?
It's the blinds.
Remember, it goes to the blinds. You twist the blinds and bring it down.
Oh, it's the thing that you hook on
Blind
to
turner.
open and close your
Yes.
blinds.
Yeah, we've been there. Remember?
Anyway, back to the network part.
So you don't think a mesh network would be okay, Michael?
No, I'm
Or-
saying once I own if there's no offsite or mobile network or some Google network being constantly pinged, it makes it less secure to where it's only controlled at the home network level because Wi-Fi is not secure.
Yeah,
No, that's not my point. Well, here's the thing, though, Michael. If I now have access to the outside, even if my home network now has intimate access with the cloud, that doesn't improve the security one bit. It makes it worse because now, if I can pretend to be some node on the house, I can now get out to the cloud.
But I mean, if you're out in the cloud, you have more control. You being the master user, because you can kick the node out of your network if you know about it. But if you're not there, if you're not home and you have no connection to that network,
Right.
you're-
No, I get what you're saying. My point, however, is so under your scenario, though, if all of these services need a cloud to operate, that means if they don't have a cloud, everything turns off.
I mean, look at two-factor.
That's a bad failsafe.
Look at two-factor authentication. That's my best example.
All right.
Mine too, actually.
1 minute on this topic. Make the best of it.
What?
Next topic.
So we talked about all that just to figure out a way to unlock the house. Was that whole discussion about that?
No.
Okay, good.
Next generation. Correct.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so next up is
'Cause I don't even lock my house, so I guess I don't need any of that.
I don't even know that I have a. I shouldn't say this. I don't even know if I have a key for my front door. I mean,
know I don't have a key to mine.
All right, so I'm
are
gonna flash
several-
Dan's address up on the screen right here, guys.
since we're live, I just want to clarify that comment. What I really meant was I have several keys, several locks, armed guards, dogs, and my front door. Okay, so next up is this very
Brown
interesting
bear.
and a black bear, and I feed it regularly. So
Don't worry, guys. Dan's address is in the description down below. So
absolutely, 15 Main Street, Anytime USA. Okay, so there's a really interesting story here about Amazon, and there's a couple stories, but Amazon is in a fight, and I'm not sure how to pronounce the publisher's name. Is it Hatchet or Hachette? I'm not sure, but this is no joke publisher. This is the publisher for Stephen Colbert, Bill O'Reilly, J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter books, McDowell, Malcolm, whatever his name is. So this is no joke. And so they're in this pissing contest with his publisher. And what's noteworthy is that initially there was this absurd situation where Amazon was saying that the books would take 3 or 4 weeks to ship. Or they would be just slightly discounted from the retail list price, making them non-competitive. And then now they've gone to where they've actually unlisted them. So they're in some contest here about the prices of these things. My initial view is good for Amazon, because if they can fight for lower prices, then so be it. And they're not a monopoly. And I wanted to, I'm going to share a screen here. Let me see
The
here.
problem, though, Dan, is they can also fight for higher prices.
Absolutely, and then they go, then you can go to another retailer. A monopoly, as defined by Merriam-Webster here, complete control of the entire supply of goods or of a service in a certain area or market, or a large company that has a monopoly, et cetera, et cetera. But it's complete control is the key definition. And then the advocates of the publisher are saying that they're violating Chapter 2 or Section 2 of the Sherman Antitrust Act. It says every person who shall monopolize or attempt to monopolize or combine or conspire with any person or persons to monopolize any part of the trade or commerce among the several states, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't see where Amazon is a monopoly. I'm losing my voice. I apologize. In any sense of the word, they're better, and more people gravitate toward them, but there are options. And just because something's popular doesn't all of a sudden make it subject to government scrutiny as a violator of the Sherman Act. There are other online things. I mean, eBay. You can buy a book on eBay. Any number of things. Google Play Books. Just kidding. I doubt anybody's buying those.
Name 2.
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you think about this? Because this is interesting. I'm on Amazon side here, but tell me I'm wrong. Tell me the other side, or what your thoughts are on it.
Name 2 of Amazon's competitors that sell books.
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble is
.com.
still in business? Okay, that's one.
The other one, .com. I don't remember the other.
Say iTunes, Dan. Say iTunes.
iTunes.
That sells physical books.
Google Play Books. Isn't there
That
Google
sells
Play Books?
physical books.
Walmart.
Look, there's a difference between a monopoly like a cable TV company or an electrical utility or a water company, right?
Books.
Because those all have to deliver physical pipes to your house. They have to draw, water pipe, an electrical wire, or an internet fiber or coax.
Pearson.
It's cost prohibitive to let 50 companies, or not to let, but it's cost prohibitive for 50 companies to do that. The internet's not the same way. Anybody's free to, open a bookstore. Michael Bank, any of us could, for $10, go on GoDaddy and get a free domain name and start up a free for 30 days e-commerce site bookstore, right? So it's not like there's a barrier to entry. there's a barrier to being popular, but this is not a monopoly.
But Dan, here's the problem. Amazon has created a barrier to entry, and the barrier to entry they've created is they offer the books lower than they're buying them.
Okay, so if you own a dollar store where everything's $1, okay, and you're very popular because everything's $1, and then Pam comes in with her excellent chili, and she says, I want you to sell this chili in your dollar store, and I want you to pay me $1.50 for it instead of the 50 to 80 cents you're used to paying. And you say no. In our store, we're only going to sell things for $1. So you have to sell it to us for 50 to 80 cents based on the popularity of the item, or we're not going to buy it and we're not going to stock it in our store. What is
that's the only
anti-American
dollar
about
store
that?
in your whole city. What do you do?
There's a difference. Amazon is a virtual store. In the city, there's a bigger cost to entry. There's a bigger barrier to entry, right? Anybody watching this program or participating in this program is free to start an online store. It would cost like between nothing and $50.
Okay, Dan.
You know,
Dan, here's the issue though. Okay, you can start your online store today that sells books. How are you going to sell a book, which is a commodity item? The book you sell is going to be the same book that Amazon sells.
right?
How are you going to sell it at less than they are?
I mean, if
And if you're not going to sell it for less than they are, what are you going to offer that makes you better than Amazon?
I would be innovative and creative in the way that Amazon did.
How?
I might.
Amazon was innovative and creative by going online.
They were
And that
innovative.
gets into it.
They were innovative and creative by doing things like creating Amazon Prime, where you get free shipping, and then in addition to that, you get this bonus thing where you get this library of videos you can watch online,
Okay, so
and you get
so,
free shipping. They're value-added products.
Okay,
If you
so you're
buy
gonna
this
add-
at our price, then you can get 10% off your next purchase, or whatever kind
Okay.
of value-added thing. You know,
So,
you sell
okay, so
dessert
then-
to the existing customer who's in there
so
for
you're
lunch
going
or
to
dinner.
have higher priced books that are higher priced than Amazon, and you're going to offer value-added stuff that Amazon doesn't offer. So all of that's going to cost you money.
So
How are
what
you
though?
gonna fund it?
The guy who sells, if I'm at the fish market and I'm buying fish wholesale from different people and selling at retail, the guy next to me in the bigger stand who sells 100 times more because he's the incumbent is going to maybe be able to negotiate a better price than I can. What's wrong with that? I mean, that's open market. If I can build my fish stand up to be bigger than him, then
But how are you going to build your fish stand up to be bigger than him if the only thing you're offering are more expensive fish, and value and anything you're spending on value added is coming out of your bottom line?
I mean, ask Jeff
Which
Bezos
he-
that question. How did he do it? How did Bill Gates do it? How did Sergey and Larry do it? When there was a powerful incumbent called Yahoo, and they created Google from a freaking college dorm room and made it the #1 search engine in the world. They didn't have government regulators deciding they were allowed to do it. They just came up with a better product that was more appealing to consumers. It's an open market. And the incumbents can be toppled, and new challengers can rise to the top, and that's
Why
what we
is
want.
it that nobody has been able to topple Amazon then?
Because no one can do it as well as they can. Jeff Bezos is better at this game. Now he's not better at
and
making a
that's the thing.
profit because he's basically
It's
been
not clear to me-
profitless.
It's not clear to me that Jeff Bezos is better at this. It is clear to me that at this point Jeff Bezos is more well funded than anyone else, so he can undercut anybody else who tries to muscle in on him.
Also, I think these are like Amazon, Bezos. I mean, there was not a huge incumbent before them to topple. I mean, eBay was not that well-rounded in being a service. eBay did one thing. Nowadays, these companies that exist long-term have like 5 different avenues of approach. So, I mean, Amazon has books. They have all the other, things. They have delivery. Now they have the media. I mean, they have gone into multiple different. Same thing with Facebook. Same thing with Google. Same thing with Apple. All the big people spread out and not focus on one thing. The bookstore is only one thing. That's only one facet of theirs.
And the other thing too is that all those people that you listed are all first to the market companies too. They were the first ones to do what they did best in the beginning.
Yes, the multiple thing.
They set the standard. So
because Google wasn't the first search engine, but they were the
first ones to do the way they did it.
Clearly,
right, but they did things differently from everybody else. They were first to the market to do it that way. So that's what I mean. Every single last one.
Entirely true.
Clearly, there's an advantage to the
first to make it.
Clearly, there's some truth to the early bird gets the worm, no doubt, right? But if that were universally true, then Friendster or MySpace would be the main search, the main social networks now.
That is. MySpace, you can argue, was the first one to get the major, social media worm. But they did not make themselves a platform and keep the worm. They only went after one worm when there was like 4 more laying right there. They let the other people get it. And once Facebook got it, they spread out and made it more.
In my mind, a monopoly is either a government-regulated thing that is allowed to be the sole thing, or it is a entity like a cable company that has an exclusive contract, or they're in there and it's not practical for someone else to come in.
I agree. It's not a monopoly. This is where
Amazon is not a monopoly.
It's not.
The Amazon is more like you're in a town of whatever size, and there's 7 pizza places, and one pizza place comes in, and they have the best pizza by far. I mean, they beat everybody else on pizza. And then everyone starts buying their pizza, and then nobody else goes to the other places. And so the other places all close or are diminished, or in whatever way this place is dominating. That doesn't mean that nobody else is allowed to come in and open a new pizza place. They're still allowed to do that. It's just this place is really good pizza. And that's Amazon.
Here's the comparison. No, Amazon is not a monopoly. I agree. But what the monopoly has evolved, the style of monopoly, because, yes, it's a pizza place. There's another pizza place right next door to you. But you are a pizza place that has other things in your pizza store, and you have more of them. So you have 5 pizza places in this one area where there's only one other one, but you offer more than pizza. So, they use those other services to keep that leg up in pizza.
Yeah, they
can't compete
did
with that.
it better. They grew and they innovated. Amazon started out as a bookstore.
I think the other problem, though, here is that pizza, the materials that go into pizza, you can get from a diversity of sources. The materials that go into selling books, you cannot get it from a diversity of sources. If you want to sell Rowling's book, you've got to buy it from Rowling's publisher.
Yeah.
Hatchet.
If you want to buy my book, you need to buy it from my publisher. You can't go to some other publisher and get it. So if Amazon says, well, we're going to screw over this publisher because they're not playing nice with us, then there's nothing to stop them. And if a publisher wants to get published, they need to either play by Amazon's game or they have 0 sales.
Yep.
Okay, so
And I'll agree that Amazon is not a monopoly. But the only other word that I can think to call them is the mafia. So I'm not sure which word would be better.
I think this is pro-consumer. I think this is pro-consumer. They're trying to compete with the other places and get a better deal, and the company won't play. This is a company that settled with the federal government in their price-fixing conspiracy with Apple. It should be noted, right? This is not a saint here. this is a company that
Yeah, but
conspired.
it's not like Amazon is a saint either.
Agreed, but in what respect? What is Amazon? What are you referencing here?
I mean, I'm referencing the fact that Amazon can essentially tell a company, you either follow, in again, when we're talking ebooks, they said you either publish with us and with us only, or we're not going to carry you at all.
You remember Beyonce's album and the Amazon thing they had with Beyonce's album? I think it was like when in Target first, if I recall. I mean, it was a while ago, but I think her album released in Target first, so Amazon didn't sell it, or they didn't get it. So I mean, they didn't sell her album or something. It was some big debacle, but Amazon making that decision because they didn't get it the same time Target got it. I mean, that's not exactly nice.
Okay, so that's all settled. Kudos to Amazon is the summary of that. Okay, so a few stories. I guess we're not going to get time to cover. One interesting side note on this Amazon story is that the Washington Post was initially criticized when Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, or the CEO of Amazon, founder, bought the Washington Post. There were questions about, is the Washington Post going to kowtow at the knees of Jeff Bezos? And apparently not, because on this story, they ran two versions of it. And the first time, the Washington Post said that Amazon said that they weren't going to comment. And the second story, they reached out to Jeff Bezos, and Jeff Bezos didn't respond. So I guess the Washington Post is not getting any preferential treatment. So at least as far as this story, you don't have to worry about the Washington Post twisting this to Jeff Bezos's benefit, because obviously that's not the case. Also, a really good story on Elon Musk. I recommend you read. It's on our notes. He's complaining that the SpaceX, they wanted to get this contract, and this is honest to God, the guy who was deciding where the military would go called SpaceX for a job, and SpaceX turned them down, and then their competitor apparently applied there too, said yes, and then he awarded the contract to their competitor, and then as soon as he awarded the contract, or shortly thereafter, he quit and went to work for the competitor. So that's a whole thing. Just read the story; you'll be aghast. Two other things: Comcast may be eyeing a bid for T-Mobile. That's interesting as far as our competitive discussion,
And we covered it on last Monday's show.
absolutely our Android Week, which is on Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern on the same YouTube channel you see this. And then Redbox is apparently going to close about 500 rental kiosks. I find myself using them less as the online alternatives become more attractive. Anybody else seeing that?
Never used it. Next.
Okay. All right, coming up on our Android Week. Alan, you want to go through these? Because I think you suggested all three of these.
Sure.
Why don't you give us a rundown here?
So to remind everyone, we've got a show on Mondays, our Android Week, 9 p.m. Eastern, or shortly thereafter, 6 p.m. Pacific, again shortly thereafter, depending on how quickly Dan gets his equipment working. We've got a lot of interesting stories coming up that we'll be covering. The first is that Apple is starting its Worldwide Developer Conference on Monday with its keynote. And usually in the keynote, we've got a lot of interesting things that are applicable to iOS. So we'll be seeing how any of those are trying to fight against Android. So expect to hear some things about home automation, possibly, maybe about a watch. Who knows? But it's almost a sure bet that we'll see the first look at iOS 8. So we'll take a look at all of this and see how any of them stack up against Android. We've also got, we'll be starting our I.O. coverage, since Google I.O. is happening at the end of the month. and there's always some interesting Android stuff coming out of that. So we'll be looking at the first sets of rumors are beginning to come out now. The first one is the perpetual rumor that Google's about to get into gaming again with Android TV. So we'll see what that's all about. Cadeas is going to have some thoughts there, I'm sure. And finally, we're going to look at how Motorola Mobility, now that it's been sold to the Chinese, will be closing down its U.S. manufacturing plant, which in theory was one of the reasons why Lenovo wanted them. So we'll be taking a look at all of this. Coming up Monday, our Android Week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Take your time getting there.
Now, while we're on the record here, Alan, do you promise to actually talk to us at I/O? Because like you were really good 2 years ago, but this past year you were a disaster.
I will try.
Now that we can do straight voice calls, right? So I can do the thing where I put your face up at Disneyland or whatever your profile picture is, that picture, and then I can do a voice call with you, right? Does that work right? Because I know like it's 10 million people trying to simultaneously, get bandwidth, so it's a rough situation.
We will try. We'll see what we can pull off. I would like to do live broadcasts from there, but I think the really exciting thing is going to be for the Monday before I/O. We're going to try to do the show from in front of the Android Park on the Google campus. So we're hoping to get several of us live from there doing Monday night show. So that's going to be fun, I think.
Awesome.
And yes, I will try to be live from the floor at Google I/O.
All right, so now our How Was Your Google Plus Week segment. Mr. Michael Banks, what kind of week did you have? It's probably warm there, right? You're in Augusta, Georgia. So tell us how your week went.
Yeah,
On or off
here.
Google Plus, just in general. How was your week?
It's been raining here pretty much, but other than that, staying busy. School, Army, Google Plus. I actually shared my first story. I think that was yesterday.
Is it deleted now?
No, it's still there. But I mean, it's been sitting there for a while, so I mean, I just haven't shared it since they rolled out. So I mean,
Now I don't remember. Are you active duty or reserves in the Army?
I'm sort of limbo. I'm a cadet, so I mean, I'm in between. I'm enlisted, I'm in reserves, and then yeah, I go to summer soon.
And
Summer train.
anything particular interesting or funny or standoutish that happened with the Army stuff this week?
No, not really. Rain. It's rained all week. It's been slow.
Okay. All right, Cadeas Kalut in Newport Beach, California. How was your week, sir?
My week was eventful to say the least. Did a little bit of traveling, did a little bit of everything, but no Google Plus this week, not very much. So.
Where'd you travel
Sorry.
to?
Oh, just around, just maybe 600 or so miles back and forth. So, but yeah.
You're almost more secretive than Alan.
Maybe
Any
not.
cool food that you encountered on your trips?
Not this week. I usually post the food that I find amazing. I haven't found anything amazing in a while. I need to go food hunting. I'll go food hunting next week. So I'll try to post some food next week.
I guess Anthony Bourdain better watch out because he's got some competition.
Maybe I gotta find Gordon Ramsay or something. Maybe he'll give me something amazing.
You're too polite and
It's that Amazon pizza. That's what it's all about.
exactly. It's all about
Oh, I will say I did try Amazon Fresh this week. I did try to use that this week.
how to work.
Everything. Well, for starters, I had to sign up for Prime, which I haven't done, so I paid $100 to sign up for Prime. Then it said it said you had to have Amazon Prime in order to sign to. I didn't realize it said to use a trial for Amazon Fresh. So then when I clicked through it, it said that if you don't if you don't have the if you don't undo it at the end of the trial, they will charge you an annual fee of $300. So basically, I have to pay
For what?
Amazon. That's their annual fee for Amazon Fresh. So basically, I have to pay Amazon $400 in order to use their service. So I went ahead and clicked OK through the trial, and I yelled at Charlie, "We're not going to no more stores no more. We're going to use Amazon Fresh for a while." And I started building the little thing, all the things I was going to buy, and I started looking. I was like, I don't remember paying this much for some of this stuff. So then we actually took a trip to Walmart, Target, and Ralph's. And like example, a jar of peanut butter, the same exact jar was $7 on Amazon Fresh. It was $2 at Walmart. So I was like, oh no, so I'm not gonna pay $400 as
For
an
the
annual
privilege
fee.
of being screwed, yeah.
Right, pretty much, yeah. And so I'm assuming it's the extra charge because they actually deliver it to you. So I'm like, nope, and so I undid all that. So.
I found the same thing on certain things. Like, you got to shop around. As good as Amazon is, and as much as they say, oh, they're the best, they're the monopoly, there are many things, especially heavy items. Like if you were going to buy
Wait
an
a minute,
anvil,
didn't you just call Amazon?
I didn't call them a monopoly. I said as much as people argue that they're a monopoly, they are not the ideal choice for groceries, for clothing. They're not competitively priced. I see many things which are way, way more expensive on Amazon than they would be locally at a legacy retail store or on other sites. So they don't have the whole game done. They're not the evil Standard Oil type thing that they're portrayed to be. Alan Furstenberg, how was your Google Plus week, sir?
Was pretty good. Had a great weekend last weekend. Met up with old friends. It was really good to rendezvous with them. Was really excited to see what story it would create from all those photos, and it created a great story that I can't share because the locations are all wrong. But beyond that, had a good week, a busy week. I was down in Manhattan at the local Google developer group, watching some really cool presentations, talking to a fellow GDE about Google Analytics, talking about my book available from O'Reilly, designing and developing for Google Glass. Jason and I are planning a series of hangouts starting next week, which I encourage you to tune in if you're interested in designing for Glass. A lot of fun stuff. I'm looking forward to what's coming up at I/O. I'm really getting excited about I/O.
Is Jason going to be there?
Jason, unfortunately, will not be able to make it to I/O, which is a serious bummer. But he's going to be keeping all sorts of strange hours from Guam and reporting on it live. So he might actually have better coverage than I would.
I swear to God, I wish there was still a Tech TV because Jason would be on it, and he would be a star because he's so good at the consummate traditional news anchor type TV personality, but also he's a tremendously intelligent guy, and so he'd be perfect for that. It's a shame what happened to Tech TV. Okay, so folks, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate it. Thanks so much to our panel and my co-hosts. We really appreciate it. And thanks for your comments. We're here every Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific for Google Plus Week. Our other show is Our Android Week, which is at 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday night, 6 p.m. Pacific. So we thank you all for watching. We do appreciate it. And as I grab my opening slide, have a wonderful Google Plus Week.